Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 34 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth gaming discussion podcast. I'm your host, as always, Brad Ellis, and joining me this week is Gene Park, Washington Post. Good friend. How you doing, Gene?
Good to be back on the show. I've been popping up a lot lately.
Yeah, dude. You're a busy man.
Been playing a lot of games.
Yes, so many games. And also our special guest this week, Mr. Happy, longtime content creator, been in the game for a long time now. How you doing, man?
Yeah, making me feel old right off the bat.
We all been in it for a while, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm doing good. Little behind the scenes, we had quite the technical snafu, and I was the trouble child getting into this. So I'm glad that we managed to make it work in the end with
whatever this program is. Yes. Yeah, our Zencaster, for some reason, was not behaving with Happy. I don't know why. Zencaster is great 99% of the time, but sometimes it's not so good. But Ben came in clutch. We're using his account on another platform, so shout outs to Ben for hooking us up. Happy, man. Just so people, if they don't know who you are, why don't you tell us about yourself a little?
Mm-hmm. So my name is Mr. Happy. I still have numbers attached to the end of that with a 1227.
1227? Yes, that's right.
That's how you know. That's how you know he's OG. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
OG and maybe never grew up out of it. No, I just don't feel like rebranding everything. That's laziness, is what it is. And I've been doing content creation on YouTube since 2013, and on Twitch I've been partnered since 2014. Largely focused around Square Enix products. Primarily my content breakout with Final Fantasy 14, which has continued onward and just had a new expansion about 7 weeks ago. So I'm still absorbing that right now, but with an exciting season of games on the way. Heck, tonight, exciting release. So, we got the rest of the year to look forward to. And 2024 has already been kind of a power hitter after 2023 was a big one. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy. I think I discovered you before A Realm Reborn came out, I think, or right around that time. Very early. And I was just like, what do you mean? How do you know how?
It's got to be. So I used to do a podcast called XIV Reborn with a few people. Yeah. Gary and Mike Byrne. We did a show together, and that would have been the only way, because that was the only major content I was doing before Realm Reborn.
Maybe it was like maybe it was like after Realm Reborn came out, like pretty early though.
Yeah,
because I didn't play like the vanilla version 1.0 or whatever. And I was like, I played like the beta, I guess, from Realm Reborn. I was like, okay, this is actually good now. Then I went down a rabbit hole and just found out a bunch of stuff from you. But yeah, I've been watching your stuff for a long time, checking out tips and all that good stuff. You've definitely helped me get through some stuff, so it's been good. So thank you for that. But yes, you talk about 14 all the time. So we're going to talk about some other stuff today. We're going to give you a little bit of a break. We're going to branch out a little bit. Talk about what you've been playing. Well, we've all been playing. But before, I need water. My throat is fucking dry.
I feel that.
Yeah, man. Gotta stay hydrated. All right. Before we get into the show, please check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia. If you'd like to support us over there, we greatly appreciate it. Leave us a rating on your podcast service of choice. Merch at laststandmedia.store. And we got our live show coming up in San Diego very shortly. You can get tickets at bit.ly at Sacred Dukes. And check out Mr. Happy on YouTube. youtube.com/Mr. Happy 1227 if you want to see his stuff there. He's got good shit, good content.
Thank you. Is that San Diego at TwitchCon, or is that separate from it?
No, it's like a separate thing. It's like our own like weird live show thing. Actually, I've never been to TwitchCon. Is TwitchCon good? Okay.
Yeah, it's usually like you go because you know people at Twitch and you haven't seen them in a while.
Okay.
So I used to live in San Diego though, so I'm always interested.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny as I've actually been to TwitchCon, and I'm not a regular Twitch streamer.
Oh, really?
No, well,
You
I
just
mean,
went?
other people go, but it's just to see Twitch. Like, you don't
It
go
was-
because, like, you know.
Yeah, it was a good like networking opportunity. I got to meet a lot of the streamers I know today are because I just met them in person there.
Yeah.
It was a really good networking. I met Hassan Piker there.
Mhm.
We were like online friends for a long time, but that was the first time we met. But yeah, that was I think 2019. I went to
Yeah. Is it always in San Diego?
always in San Diego for some reason.
Yeah.
Huh.
They did Vegas last year. It was a disaster.
Oh, really? Damn.
Because it was while they were building the F1 track. So, like, it was like $80 to go like a mile in Las Vegas with an Uber. It was terrible.
Damn. What was the last fan fest you went to, Happy? I don't think you went to the newest recent one, did you?
No, Japan 2019.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's got to be tough because you're like, well, I can just stay home and just make all this content. So
It wasn't even that. So Square didn't do any creator related content added.
Oh.
So all the creators had to fight for badges. And so
Really?
I tried and I just didn't get it. And I was like, you know what? I could go scouring through, like, ask a bunch, because that's what all my friends did. They all like went like, oh, does anyone in my community have spare badges? Like, you know what? I'll take that as a sign from the universe. I got some things going on in my life. I'll just stay home and chill with everyone, and I'll go to the next one.
Yeah,
and I'll be
for
fine.
sure. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I went the most recent one. It was cool. I'd never been to one before, but it was fun. I can see why people like it, especially if you like play with people in game and beat them up. That's sick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a little more of a question from Cammy Black here. Gentlemen of the square table, another ease-it-in question for you, all three of you. It's late. You've been nodding off in bed for an hour, but can't quite sleep. You're about to nod off, but then hear a knock at your window. Would you rather it be A, Garrus with a 6-pack of beers, Garrus from Mass Effect 2, B, Donkey Kong with a blunt, C, Geralt of Rivia, ready to put you through the Witcher trials, and why? Peace and love. Gene, let's start with you. Who are you picking out of these three candidates?
This will be an easy one. I am now alcohol sober. So Garrus, you'll have to find
Off the
someone
table.
else. Sorry, buddy. I am California sober though, so I'll gladly pick
okay.
the blunt from Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I don't really want to hang out with Geralt. I think he's a cool guy, but he doesn't seem like a guy that I actually want to like spend time with. He just seems like he'll just be, I don't know, just kind of a dick all the time, you know, and just really hard to talk to.
Well,
So it's got to be
yeah.
Donkey Kong with a blunt, easy. Number one, first of all, I'm always down to smoke, like whenever. There's never a mood where I'm not like, you know, I think I'll just pass or whatever like that. So Donkey Kong with a blunt would be the only one who would not be putting me out of like whatever I had planned that night, because I was probably gonna get high anyways. So,
yeah.
easy answer. Donkey DK
Yeah.
with a blunt.
Happy, who are you picking here?
I think it's the same answer. Like, I don't even smoke much, but like, I think of all the options and I'm like, why would I go with, you know, anything but the second one? But it's funny because I started thinking of, you mentioned Geralt not being fun to hang out with. I imagine smoking the blunt with him and then him going, don't touch a roach.
That would be cool. Yeah. see, getting high with if Geralt came with the blood, then we might be having a different conversation. But if
Yeah, that'd be
Geralt just
different.
I still think Donkey Kong's a better choice though, even if I had to choose, because he's too uppity to be like, when he's high, he's still gonna be mad. He's just gonna be loopy at the same time.
Yeah, you're gonna be wondering like, are you mad at me? You know, why are you mad at me?
Paranoid.
Geralt? You know?
Yeah, and I think the Witcher trials, I believe, like people die during that. It's very intense from what I recall. So that's a hard pass on that for me. I love Geralt, but no thanks. I'm gonna have to pick Donkey Kong as well. Like, just fucking hang out with Donkey Kong. That sounds awesome.
Bro, he would bring so many bananas. He comes with his own
Exactly.
munchies.
Yeah, man, he'd be awesome. Probably bring us bongos or some shit. It'd be great, man.
Yeah, I
love
forgot
that.
the Witcher trials is basically like a 80% death. Like
Yeah, high percentage of death.
We just
Very,
heard
very
the
high
blunt and we just forgot about the rest. That was the blunt sold it at the end.
Yeah.
Even what's his face was telling Geralt like, dude, you can't let Ciri do this. You know, like what are you thinking? You know?
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, he wouldn't even do it to his own like quote unquote daughter. So Yeah, I think DK is an easy win here.
Yeah,
if there's a guaranteed success that I become a Witcher right afterwards, then I might reconsider. But I would have to ask Geralt to make an appointment. I don't know why he's coming to me in the middle of the night to bother me with that shit.
We must go.
Yeah, I need to weigh the odds. I need to make sure that I need to read all the documents, the paperwork.
All right. Over the past couple weeks, with all the guests, we've been doing our Game of the Year picks for the last decade. I did this with Colin and Chris, and I did it with Maddie and Cog. Now we're going to do it with Gene and Mr. Happy here. I already have said mine the past two, so I'll refrain from doing it. But let's start with you guys. What we're going to do is we're going to do 2014. We'll start with Gene, then we'll go to Happy. Then we'll go 2015. We'll go back to Gene and Happy. And we'll keep doing that for each year. All right, Gene, you did this list when we were figuring out all our technical issues. Mm-hmm. Let's hear it from you. 2014 Game of the Year from Gene Park.
Fairly last minute scrambled together lists because that's how I always do homework. I always do everything in the last minute, which is why it's good that I'm a journalist, because I need deadlines.
Yeah.
So 2014 is an interesting year. It was the first year of the Game Awards, right? And that was when Dragon Age Inquisition won, and everyone was like, "Why the fuck did Dragon Age Inquisition won? What was nothing else out that year?" Turns out Dark Souls 2 did come out that year, right?
It did, yeah.
So that might be my best game of the year, but I went with an unconventional one. My pick for Game of the Year 2014 is PT.
Oh, PT, okay.
PT. It's been 10 years. Yeah, not a full game, obviously, and not a game that anyone can get right now. But I think in terms of 2014, when you look at what made a real impact in 2014, I think it was PT. I think PT was the game that really obviously changed the horror genre. It inspired so many people to change their games. It revitalized Resident Evil, and today it remains, the one that got away. The project that got away from all of us, the dream project that I'm still mad about. And it's been 10 years, 10 years this month, actually. So yeah, why not celebrate PT as the best game and probably the most consequential game, or at least piece of entertainment software that came out in 2014.
Damn. All right. Cool pick. Happy. What about you?
It's funny you mentioned Dark Souls 2. I rag on that game a lot. Because, it just didn't impress. But 2014 is actually kind of a tough year. At that point, I was full-time into streaming 14. And I basically made no time for anything else. So it was like a dry year, but one game I made time for that year was Dark Souls 2. So I actually don't have that deep of a pool. It's that, and I think Destiny came out in 2014 also. I played a bunch of Destiny.
Destiny would count one, I think, too, yeah.
Yeah. I think I have to, because Destiny and Dark Souls 2 are really the only two games I pivoted to that year. So I think I just have to go Dark Souls 2, because Destiny, after like a month and a half, I was like, and I never really stuck with it after that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dark Souls 2. It's kind of like the stepchild of the Dark Souls trilogy, but yeah, it has its positives, and it got better later on too.
Yeah, it did. I think it's a good game. I think it's by far their worst out of all of those, but
yeah,
it's still worth playing. Absolutely. It's still better than most video games, but it's like the worst from them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. It has been funny to see a lot of people tweet out like some of the jokey traps of Dark Souls 2, because Dark Souls 2 was the game with the most bullshit, where it's like, oh my God, there's a trap door here. Oh, this door doesn't lead anywhere except to death. And just like gank squads everywhere, just armies of NPC enemies everywhere. But also people are discovering that so much of the animations from Elden Ring are actually from Dark Souls 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And which is so fascinating, because I've always thought that Elden Ring felt so much like Dark Souls 2, but properly budgeted, properly planned, properly spaced out. Because the biggest problem with Dark Souls 2 is that the level design, was just crap. But then they were really trying to demonstrate or portray like a wide, big world, as opposed to Dark Souls 1, where it's like, here's the castle and here's the Sans Fortress and here's like this contained area. And Dark Souls 2 tried to be a longer epic. it didn't really quite translate well. But a lot of the lessons learned came from Elden Ring. So
definitely,
Dark Souls 2 is a huge pick. It would have been my pick too. Yeah. It's not for PT. If PT doesn't count as a full game, which I totally get, then it'll be Dark Souls 2. So,
yeah. All right, Gene, 2015.
It's got to be easy. Bloodborne.
I think we're gonna see a recurring theme here with Gene and I.
It's just Bloodborne. Bloodborne was the reason why I bought the PS4 in the first place. I bought a PS4 before that, but I bought it with the anticipation that Bloodborne was going to be the console exclusive. And
yeah,
I thought it was going to be the Demon Souls sequel, and it was much more than that. So I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said about Bloodborne. So
Happy, also Bloodborne.
Yeah, and I bet you I know what 2016 is too. Yeah, I mean, Bloodborne, let's just say that there's a reason literally every 3 months there's a gaming conference, Bloodborne on PS5 or Bloodborne PC is trending. And it's a testament that FromSoft, people may think Elden Ring perfected their format, but Bloodborne was the little sidestep that really got them to where they are now after they really had to, like you said, learn the lessons from Dark Souls 2. So
yeah,
definitely totally. Bloodborne.
Amazing game. All right, 2016, Gene.
This one will be a little different because I think 2016 was a really, really good year. Overwatch was the one that won. Oh, did Overwatch win Game of the Year, right?
Yeah, it did. One
Game of the Year, which is wild and interesting. Dark Souls 3 obviously came out too, and that was great. Uncharted 4. Doom 2016 is another one that and probably would have been my number 2 pick, but my pick for 2016 is a weird one. It's Hitman 1.
Oh, okay.
So good.
Hitman World of Assassination. It was the beginning of the World of Assassination trilogy. To me, the second best stealth game series of all time, other than Metal Gear, and that's only because Metal Gear 5 was so good. If it wasn't for Metal Gear 5, then Hitman would be the best stealth series of all time, I think. But yeah, welcome back to the World of Assassination. It started the whole trilogy off and became a success, and now IO Interactive is working on James Bond. Good stuff. So unconventional. It's my favorite game, probably, but probably Doom 2016 is probably the other one that I really didn't want to not give it to, but I'll give it to Hitman.
Nice. All right, Happy, 2016.
2016, it's crazy to think that's still not even all of it. Stardew Valley was 2016.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's huge game.
Like
that's probably the real game of the year. Yeah, Stardew Valley. It probably is.
Yeah. No Man's Sky, while it released in not a great state, was also that year. Pokemon Go. My goodness!
Wow, what a phenomenon.
Yeah,
crazy.
But for me, I was riding the FromSoft train. Like I still ride that gravy train. I feel like every year there's a Souls-like that is a hit, or even if it's like kind of okay, it always just ends up at the top of my list. So yeah, I'm going to be predictable and be the FromSoft stand here and that of making Dark Souls 3 my easy answer.
Yeah, you're in good company, Happy. We do the same thing. Don't worry about it.
It's totally fine. But also, this ranking just made me realize, do we seriously fucking get Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 3 all consecutively year after year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we were so spoiled back then.
Yeah,
people don't make games like that anymore. We're lucky that we got Armor Core 6 the year before, and Elden Ring 2022 and Shadow of Erdtree this year. That's probably the closest thing we got right now.
Yeah.
My goodness, what a run! Holy shit! No wonder why FromSoft was becoming so popular. They were making a lot of games.
Yeah. They're busy.
Yeah.
All right, 2017, Gene.
This one's Brad and I had a little discussion about this because I think the obvious game of the year would have to be Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be Breath of the Wild. But just to be different, because the real choice is Breath of the Wild, but just to be different, and just because it's also, I can't believe it came out the same year, is Nier Automata.
I saw that one coming.
Yeah. Mr. Happy and I just met, but we already know each other's tastes very well, which is great. If I'm gonna choose between which game I prefer, It's tough because Breath of the Wild is a game that I usually have used to cite as my favorite game of all time. Now I kind of think it's a mix between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But Nier Automata is solidly my fourth favorite, but it is my favorite story in video games. So I'll just give it to Nier just because Breath of the Wild is the obvious winner. So
Right.
Yeah.
Dustin would be happy. All right, happy.
My choice is another massive hitter and one that's fresh on my mind for a very particular reason, in that of Persona 5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I think 2016, every year since then, we've been like, how are all these games coming out this year? And then there's like maybe like a 1 year lapse somewhere in there, but it's been crazy how crammed everything's been in terms of like big hitters. Just wait till we get to the next couple of years. There's some insane ones in the next couple of years. I don't know how I'd even decide for 2018.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's crazy. All right. 2018, Gene. What are you picking?
2018 is tough because, I will say Red Dead Redemption 2 is undeniably great, right? I like to call it the one of the great pyramids of video games. People died making that game, probably. The amount of effort that went into that game is just incredible. But it is not a game that I like to replay. In fact, it is a game that I probably will never, ever replay ever again, just because it's so slow. So 2018, odd pick, and not a game I played in 2018, but it'll be Dragon Quest XI.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what
I played it. I only finished it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. I was like, this is actually the best JRPG possibly I've ever played. So yeah, I'll just give it to Dragon Quest XI.
Nice.
A Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger level game that came out in 2018. It's got to be it.
All right. Happy 2018.
So I said 2018 was a struggle because God of War and Monster Hunter World both came out that year. I did play Dragon Quest XI also. I think it's got to go to Monster Hunter World because I was not a Monster Hunter. My friends played like the earlier ones. Like they were like, oh, you got to try this. And they're playing on like PSP and all that. And I was like, I don't want to buy a whole nother like little thing. I already had the console for World, and it's like literally the franchise's mainstream hit. It's the thing that makes everybody know what Monster Hunter is. So as much as I never got that attack jewel in the 5 weeks that I farmed for it until they brought I had to wait for Geralt to show up before I ever saw another attack jewel.
Oh God. Yeah, grinding in Monster Hunter is such a pain. Yeah,
that one, it's just World's one attack jewel. That one, like they gave you one freebie, and then you're like, I just need one more. All the loot lists say it's there, and you're just like, I don't believe you, but I'm gonna keep trying anyway. Valhazak, I will see you in the pit. So yeah, that's what World for sure.
Hell yeah, Worlds.
Yeah, World's great. Okay, 2019, Gene.
2019 was a tough one, but I think it's easy for me. It'll be Devil May Cry 5. I think Devil May Cry 5, again, made by the guys who helped out with Monster Hunter. Devil May Cry 5 is just the apex of the character action genre, the genre that the series itself started. But this is better than Bayonetta. It's a reason why Bayonetta 3 came out and it kind of sucked. It's just like, wait, I think Team Devils here completely outlapped Kamiya now at this point. Hideki Kamiya, the creator of Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and Resident Evil 2. So I'm actually playing Devil May Cry the whole series right now. And that I would have talked about it here in Sunset, but we didn't preview it, and I just started playing this weekend. But it's just one of my favorite series of all time, and Devil May Cry 5 is simply the best version. I like it better. The God of War wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Devil May Cry. So I just think DMC5 is just peak action game. It's a perfect action game.
Yeah. All right. Happy.
Devil May Cry 5. Yeah. So Here's the thing. I just got back from New York, and while I was there, I met a fellow content creator. Her name is Runeby, and I noticed she had a Virgil phone case.
Ruby.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ruby.
Yeah. And what I learned is that she is Devil May Cry obsessed. So I got to nerd out about Devil May Cry for about 3 whole days over this last week. And it's always a good time. It's just good remembering every experience. I've 100%ed all of them. Back in the day, I don't have the achievements, unfortunately, to show for it on modern, except for with 5. But there's just, I'm waiting. Listen, he's done with Dragon's Dogma 2. They said, listen, you have to make Devil May Cry 5 or Dragon's Dogma 2. He's made them both now. Now we come back around. It's an Osan, just come back around and bring my baby to the next step. Yeah, and there's an anime coming too. Another anime.
Yeah, it's been a while though. In 2019. So yeah, let's bring it back. Roomby, shout out to Roomby, love her. But yeah, Devil May Cry series, just classic.
Okay, 2020, Gene.
This will be a weird pick, and I think a surprise. But mine is Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, in 2020. Okay.
Yeah, came out in 2020.
Yeah.
People forget because nobody wanted to give it any kind of flowers on the year of its release. Right?
No.
I gave it some. It was rough, but I gave it some flowers.
I gave it some.
Cool
I really like the game, but over time, I think Cyberpunk has become my favorite first-person game of ever made.
They've improved it a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
I think it is my favorite game that's in first person, more than Doom, more than Halo, more than Call of Duty. I think Cyberpunk is the best first-person game ever made.
Damn, I could see that though.
Yeah,
I respect it.
I think it's got everything I want in a first-person adventure, action, drama, cinematography, shooting, driving. Radio, cool music, cool story. I like Cyberpunk better than Witcher 3.
Okay, I'm going to agree with that because I think Witcher 3's combat does not make me want to play it for very long.
Yeah, everyone says the combat to me is fine. It's more like the pacing of the adventure because it sucks to replay. And Cyberpunk almost does that, but if you actually just start Phantom Liberty, then it just starts it lets you skip the whole tutorial. And you can and it's like rams you up to like level something. So it's a good way to like New Game Plus it.
That's nice.
I think you could do that with Hearts of Stone, maybe. I know you could with Blood and Wine, but
you could, but then you need to find all the fucking cat gear, Witcher gear again, and that. I fucking hate the scavenger hunt for the different armor. But then you need to get the different armor because they all look so cool.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
so Witcher 3 is obviously a great game, but I prefer to replay Cyberpunk overall.
All right, happy 2020.
2020. 7 Remake came out that year. Demon Souls Remake came out that year. Genshin Impact came out that year. I think I'll go with 7 Remake. I've been on the side of the internet that has a large amount of positivity over it. I started the franchise with 7. Watching my friend fight one of the endgame bosses was the first thing I ever saw of it. Blew my mind, but I think about how I feel about it nowadays in Remake and subsequently, spoiler for the later on the list, Rebirth, will have revitalized my interest in a Final Fantasy game that was never near my favorite. So divisive as it is, I'm gonna go with Remake.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would pick too. I was very positive on it. Very positive. All right, 2021, Gene.
I think this is one of the years that wasn't as great. So, but I did love a game there, and it was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah, I just think that it's a perfect little platformer shooting game. I think it's gameplay wise probably the best one. Although it has been a good long time since I played Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal. But to me, it reminds me of those games and the greatness that they did. So, yeah, 2021 was a little slow year, but Rift Apart is still my favorite, and it's still probably like my 3rd favorite PS5 exclusive at this point now.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, happy.
I just want to say that game was the first game. I didn't think it'd be a Ratchet & Clank game that made me go, okay, that's what the next generation is. Like you in your head, you wouldn't think like, oh yeah, that'll show the PS5. No, It was rips apart.
It was ripped apart, yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Look at that fucking fur. Look at the reflection in his eyeball. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah, everything about that game. Yeah, that's a year that's tough. There's an indie game that I'm kind of tempted to put near that list. There's a game called Kenna Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did an animation for Majora's Mask on YouTube like years and years and years ago. One of the best like fan-made Zelda things I've ever seen. Same animation studio that did it. I forget what it's called, but if you just go in like YouTube it real quick, you'll be blown away. Something about the Skull Kid, which is obvious. But favorite, I think Rise. I'll go with Monster Hunter Rise only because I think I could probably make another choice. But yeah, no, I'm going to go with Rise. All I remember about 2021 is just being like, please stop making new Deathloop trailers. I don't care if the game is good. I just got tired of seeing Deathloop trailers for years leading up to its release. I was so grateful that it released. And it turned out being a really good game. I just got sick of the trailers for Deathloop.
I actually, Deathloop like won a lot of Game of the Year awards.
Yeah.
I really, really loved Deathloop until I got to the second half, and I was like, I fucking hate this game. So for me, Deathloop is a solid 5 out of 10, like in the biggest spirit, maybe 6 out of 10, because I do think that it was pretty innovative in what it tried to do, like the multiplayer immersive sim game. That's cool. That's hard to do. They didn't do it, but I admire them for them trying.
All right, 2022.
Just we already know.
We can just move on. It's Elden Ring.
Yeah, we can just move on. It's Elden Ring, everybody.
We already know it's Elden Ring.
It's Elden Ring.
How many more times can we fucking talk about this game? So.
Yeah, it's Elden Ring.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
2023, Gene.
Tough one. But I did pick Alan Wake 2 as my game of the year. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the real pick. Still. But Alan Wake 2 is my personal favorite. I still really love the story. I think it's one of the more interesting survival horror games ever made. I replayed it recently and still had a great time.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's a great game. All right, happy.
Tougher for me. I actually didn't play Baldur's Gate until months and months after it came out. And while it was fun, I had a very buggy experience that kind of dragged it down a little bit.
Me too.
Yeah. So, but I will say this, man, I got to play Monk, and Monk was a good time.
Yeah.
Armored Core 6 came out 2023. That's my third favorite franchise behind Devil May Cry. And I have been awaiting its return for many years. But I think I'm going to give it to Final Fantasy 16.
Sure.
Because it scratches that Devil May Cry itch just enough because they had their lead combat developer for that game, the same one from Devil May Cry 5. Obviously, Final Fantasy fanboy, self-admitted, lock me up. So yeah, I think even with the few issues that it did have, that I think that wins Game of the Year. And it just got announced for PC for September 17th. Yeah, they just announced today. Yep.
I heard it runs pretty good on Steam Deck actually too. So
yeah, I think it's Steam Deck verified, isn't it?
I think so. Yes, I think I'm going to try to demo it and see how it runs. But I'm pretty excited about that. People say that I've been hard on Final Fantasy 16 if it's only because of side quest design and story, but I think it's actually my third favorite game of that year, or maybe if not my second. I like it better than God of War. I don't like it better than Devil May Cry 5, but it's not as good. I'm not sure what he was smoking when he said, "Oh, this is my masterpiece." I was like, "No, dude, you already made your masterpiece. It was DMC 5." But FF16 was really good.
Yeah, I think they just have strengths in different areas. Like narratively, 16 blows Devil May Cry 5 out of the water, no question. Dude, come on, man. 5 story, come on, dude. It's Virgil. Surprise. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's great. It should be Virgil.
It's like, I like Virgil too. He was awesome. I like Virgil. But it's just like, okay. All right. And the second half of that game, dude, everything just looks like that fucking Demon Tower bullshit.
That is true.
More variety going there.
That is true. That is one of my biggest criticisms of DMC5. I think the level design is kind of like it's just a colonoscopy the whole time,
But is that better or worse than playing the game in reverse for 4?
No, it's better.
It's better.
Okay, that's the right answer.
Oh yeah,
love the level design in 4. We did not have to go through that whole shit backwards again.
No. Yeah, God no. All right, current year 2024 year's not over yet, but let's just get our current GOTY picks. Gene.
Black Myth Wukong. Okay.
Come on, man. I have a New Zealand PlayStation account. I was like, let me see if I can play it early. No, it's globally released I think it's 10 a.m. China Standard Time. Yeah, something like that.
It's going to be a rebirth for me. I would love to see... I hope that the games industry doesn't do like what the Oscars do all the time, and they just give it to the last game. Or the last thing in the trilogy, but like, oh no, now you deserve it, because you finished your trilogy. No, I think Rebirth is good enough to deserve it. I think it's probably going to be the best one. Rebirth is so good. I said Rebirth is, I'll say it again, Rebirth is a game that reminded me of the great days of Square Enix. The best game they made since Final Fantasy 14 and 10. Best single player game since Final Fantasy 10. And it would be nice to finally see a Final Fantasy game win a Game of the Year, and like be universally praised as like, this is the best game of this year, Final Fantasy. Yeah, finally.
Happy.
Yeah, it's hard to deny. Okay, I had the game 2 weeks before it came out. I 100%ed it before it came out. I couldn't stop playing it because it just gets you going from one thing to the next thing, and it's a little world fillery at times, like games that try to fill a world where there's side quests and stuff a little bit, but they did a phenomenal job. And someone who loves all the side quests, I actually thought they did a good job with them for the most part. And I think whether you like that game lives or dies on how much you like the mini games, because if you hate them, the game's terrible for you. Like, it's a horrible experience doing anything but the story. I think the post game needed work too. There's a lot of fight two different bosses, this combination of these two bosses, and this combination of these two bosses, and this combination. It's like, bro, give me something. If I have to kill that zoo one more time, I swear I'm gonna lose it.
That was rough.
But I think it's a masterpiece through and through. So that's definitely my choice. Although, year's not done yet.
Nope.
But we'll see.
Yeah, not done yet. We'll see. Maybe Dragon Age will win again this year, Gene.
It could be another year for Dragon Age. Just by default.
We'll see.
I'm actually not a huge Dragon Age mark. A lot of games journalists are. I like Dragon Age a lot, but
that's why I was saying. A lot of game journalists do like Dragon Age,
but games journalists in particular really fucking love really love the old BioWare, the mid 2000s BioWare games, Mass Effect and Dragon Age, but Dragon Age in particular. But I don't know what I'm looking at. It doesn't really excite me that much. So. Yeah,
a big thing with Veilguard is the name. Two, I'm not wild about the name change. I know Dreadwolf is like, it just sounds edgier. Realistically, this probably is the better name for the dev team. But I think a big thing it has working against it is it's going to draw comparisons to Baldur's Gate, just because in terms of like RPG fantasy, they're in a similar vein and player choice and player agency. But Baldur's Gate last year is going to, I think, force people who are like hoping for something of that era, of that like feeling with Veilguard, and I don't think that's going to happen. There's like going to be some overlaps, but it's not going to be all the way there. We're not going to have anything nearly as dedicated as Astarian people and Shadowheart lovers and whatnot. Nothing even close, I don't think. With Dragon Age, man, what came out last year that I almost put on the list? I snubbed it, just like the Game Awards, was Octopath 2.
Last year too. I haven't played that yet. But
it's better in every way.
Okay, I played the first one and I was like, I don't think the narrative's very good in the first one. It wasn't strong enough to keep me going, I guess.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, 2, huge step up. So
yeah,
one day.
And Harvestella in 2022 is a big surprise hit for me too. That was like the farming sim Square Enix one.
Yeah. Okay, interesting to hear.
Highly recommend it, especially if you find it on sale and you like old school RPGs, because it might look like a farming sim, but I promise you there's a lot more happening with that game than farming sim.
Okay. Interesting. All right, Gene, Black Myth Wukong is out, or not out, but the review bar is out. You've been playing, or you've played it.
I
Tell us
have.
about this game. I have many questions about it, but let's hear just the overview.
Yeah. Overview is that I think it is a good action game. But it is not a game that I really, really want to play right now. Because it just came out right after Shadow to Erdtree, and it's just not doing anything that's new or interesting, I feel like. So but as I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, this is good, and I'm dodging and I'm hitting the dodges. I'm like, that felt good. Right. So I'm trying to separate like my objectivity from like how much I enjoy how good the combat feels, because it does feel good. Combo finishers, especially, this game is very, very much combo focused, so it's less. So that's why a lot of people, to be clear, this is not really a Souls-like. When you die in this game, you do not get punished at all. You can just keep dying and throwing yourself against enemies and keep grinding. As a result, this game is actually pretty easy. Not that challenging. A lot of the bosses that I hit, I was able to knock them down in like 2 or 3 tries. And if there was one boss that gave me a hard time, I just leveled up and was able to get past it. So,
are there difficulties?
There are no difficulties.
Okay.
So it's a very, very straightforward action game. I haven't finished it yet. I haven't gotten far. But it, again, as other reviews have most mentioned, is much more of a boss rush. Not too many enemies in between, and when there are, they're very few and far between, and they're very, very easy. The small enemies are very, very easy. They barely do anything to you. It's sometimes they'll try to mob you with a lot of enemies, and it's cool because Wukong, or the Destined one, I'll just call him Wukong, just to Sun Wukong, just for the benefit of shortness. But Wukong has a lot of AoE attacks with his spear, with his stick, so that makes a lot of fun. There's a lot of stances that he can do, and that's what makes it also interesting too, and that's what makes the fights fun. A lot of magic spells. He can become other enemies too. So there's a Pokemon Shin Megami SMT level of engagement there. Obviously, this is like predetermined amount of enemies that you can become. It's not expansive. This is not Ni no Kuni or anything, you know. The story is just kind of there. It's just you're just a monkey following in the footsteps of Sun Wukong. It's not really nothing to write home about. But I haven't finished it. Locations aren't that interesting. The level design is
okay.
The set design, the backgrounds are cool, but the actual navigation of level design is not there. It's you know, did you guys play Final Fantasy VII Strangers of Paradise?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. It's that level design. You're just going from room to room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is there like there's like a side room occasionally with like one chest or like an enemy? Because that's pretty. Okay,
that's most it'll do, but it's very, very linear. It's about as linear as Final Fantasy 13.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like this game is good, and if you're not tired of this kind of combat, then you should probably check it out. But if you kind of burned out on after Erdtree, especially because I feel kind of burned out after Erdtree. While I was playing Erdtree, I was kind of getting burned out on Erdtree itself. So if you're right where I'm at, then this game is not going to interest you. And it's interesting because, you know, I think Stellar Blade is better. I think Stellar Blade did more interesting things. The combat was more interesting. The combat here doesn't have a lot of weight. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. You know how when you can slash enemies in Dark Souls and they will go like that.
Yeah, the impact's good.
They're poised or bloodborne and everything. That doesn't really happen all the time here in Black Myth Wukong. A lot of enemies, when you hit them, the weapon will just kind of fly right through, and you know you see the life bar go down. A lot of the bosses do get some nice impact, and I think a lot of the impact emphasis is again on those combo finishers. This is more of a combo centric game. So when you do the combo finishers, then you'll get a big old pop that feels really good, and that's when the enemy will get staggered and react. Other than that, though, the combat feels just a little light. So it's a little hard for me. So in my review, or not my review, my impressions, I was wondering, like, am I just really tired of Souls-likes or games like this? So then I tried Another Crab's Treasure by Aggro Crab, indie game. And I really, I had a code in my email, and I was like, why don't I try this out? Immediately, I was more interested in this game. Because in the first 2 hours, you have a city. Here's a Souls-like with a city, with a shop and town, and like different caste systems and different social structures. They're using sauce packets as flags to determine like which nation you're at under the ocean. So immediately, there's like so much more interesting storytelling that's already happening. This world is being built up in a much more interesting way that's visually more striking, and that's what I think games like Another Crab's Treasure or even Stellar Blade or even Liza P. I think Liza P is the gold standard in terms of like non-FromSoft Souls games or games like this would grab you in a way that this game kind of didn't, which is weird because Black Myth Wukong, I was so hyped for it when the trailer came out in 2020. I was like, man, we've never seen a game like this before. And then it's been 4 years, and I was like, I think we've already seen a lot of games like this since then. It kind of took a while for them to make it. It would have been killer in 2021, but at this point, I'm like, it's okay. But again, I'm actually an outlier. A lot of reviews, including GameSpot and IGN, gave it a solid 8. They had a lot more fun time with it. So yeah,
you just convinced me, I think, not to play it tonight. You named some things that like are really big hit. Like I hate weightlessness. It's actually the only thing I struggle with Automata. Is that I find a lot of most of the attacks are relatively weightless. And while Platinum has a pretty good track record with that, it's after Revengeance, I never really wanted to play another. I never really enjoyed combat in another Platinum Games game, except maybe Astral Chain, because that actually was a little weighty.
Astral Chain was very weighty, yeah. Yeah. This is not a game that feels weighty, unfortunately. I value that immensely in my action games, like you. So. It's the whole reason why we like Demon Souls and Dark Souls in the first place. We're like, the swords feel so heavy and weighty. This does not feel weighty at all. The stick doesn't feel weighty. He does feel cool though. Here's one thing Black Myth Wukong does really, really well, and the IGN Mitch IGN posted on Twitter. But there's this weird thing where the AI does when you fight a boss, where you clash. And then you separate, and then the boss and the player can circle around each other and just kind of stare at each other for a little bit.
That's cool.
And the little moments like that, like I think they actually designed the AI to kind of like pull away. And if you're gonna pull away and stand back, then then the AI will stare at you. So that shit's cool. And that happens a lot. No matter what size of the enemy, big or small, even if it's a big ass werewolf, the werewolf will still like walk around and size you up and everything like that. So. There's a lot of good storytelling there. I think that's probably one of the more impressive things. That there's actually a lot of good narrative elements during the fights that makes that makes those parts exciting. But again, it's a little bit like Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade has those moments too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 questions for you, Gene.
Yeah.
Do you know the length of this game?
I think it's about 20 hours, so not too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping as long as it's not like 10 hours.
No,
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's longer than that.
It sounds very linear to me, like, and no room for like exploration is kind of is honestly disappointing. I was hoping there'd be a little more to it, maybe some like platforming. I don't know, something to break it up. But if it just feels like a boss rush, that's cool, I guess. But I think I just expected more from it. But how are the bosses, Gene? Since they are pretty much the main focus of the game,
they're cool. There's some interesting designs, some interesting creatures. They have second phases, and the second phases are always fairly interesting from what I've seen. I think the enemies are cool. I think the enemy design, everything about the aesthetics is pretty cool. Wukong's cool. The monsters are cool. I think the monsters are better designed than Stellar Blade. People like the Stellar Blade monsters. I didn't like them that much, but. Obviously pulling from Journey from the West, a lot of imagery there. I didn't read the book. I haven't read the source novel. I've only watched Dragon Ball. Obviously,
I was thinking the same thing.
Exactly. And I play Enslaved, Odyssey to the West or whatever, the Ninja Theory game. But Yeah, it's a sizable game though. Again, I've had 7 hours on it, and I think I'm still pretty much at the beginning. So I think you can get a good 20-30 hour. It's a solidly paced action game, but a lot of bosses again.
Cool. Happy. Do you have any questions for Gene about it before we move on?
Define easy, because as a precursor, and maybe hot take, I thought Shadow of the Erdtree was too easy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
this is gonna be so easy for you then.
Yeah, I was like, I said going into Shadow of the Erdtree, I was like, after Millennia, I don't think they can do anything that makes me like upset. And I was right. Like, even the final boss of the DLC, I was like, okay, this is a challenge, but like, I'm not frustrated. I'm just like, okay, I'll get it down. That was the end of it. So,
yeah, this is much easier than any FromSoft game that I've played. I think I have an easier time with Dark Souls. I think I have a harder time with Dark Souls 1 than I did with Black Myth Wukong, which is part of the reason why I didn't really want to play this game, because it's like, I'm not really feeling like that good after beating the boss. So I'm just okay. Well, down to the next boss.
Yeah. So is it like Devil May Cry 5 like normal? Because I had a Devil May Cry friend say that it reminded him of like trying to get like, you know, really cool combos in Devil May Cry. Yeah.
I think that part of the reason why I'm playing Devil May Cry, I think, is because of the Wukong influence, right? So I think there is a little bit of Devil May Cry and the character action, God of War style gameplay. A lot of people compare this to God of War as well. I think the games are probably similar to Devil May Cry normal or God of War normal. But again, that's pretty easy though.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty easy, right? So the game's pretty easy. The games journalists were calling it easy, and I'm not saying the games journalists are supposed to be, you know, like bad at games or whatever, but it was pretty unanimous for a lot of the games journalists. Yeah, this was pretty easy too.
Okay.
So some of the fights also, some of the boss design isn't perfect. And that's only me being nitpicky, and I mentioned this in review, but you know how when you play Elden Ring and you're like, oh, this is a boss from Sekiro, or when you're playing Sekiro and you're like, oh man, this feels like a boss from Bloodborne all of a sudden. Demon of Hatred, for example, right? Or Elden Ring, Millennia obviously feels like a Sekiro boss. A lot of bosses in Dark Souls 3 felt like Bloodborne bosses. Just feels a little off. Every boss in Black Myth Wukong feels like that. You know, it doesn't quite. There's only a few bosses where it's like, oh, it feels like it matches with this combat system, and everything else is like, oh, they're making a Bloodborne boss and making it fit with this combat system. So you can tell that like there's not a lot of expertise in terms of balancing the combat around your moveset and the enemy's moveset. If that makes if I'm making it clear, you know. You know, the perfect example would be Artorias in Dark Souls 1, right? And how his moveset was just perfectly in line with the player's moveset. To the point where Artorias was actually controllable by the dev team. And you could actually have a versus mode between Artorias and another player character. With this game, it just doesn't feel like the bosses are really kind of designed around this tight combat system that will feed and flow into each other, you know?
All right. Mini Joe Rogan wrote in. Oh, Minion Joe Rogan, sorry. Hey, Good Squad.
I've heard that name before. It's so good.
Yeah. What's up with Black Myth Wukong's do and don't email? Do publishers normally send out this kind of email to reviewers, or is the President Pooh Bear scared dirty Americans will randomly bring up COVID-19, the Uyghur genocide, and freeing Hong Kong? Have a great day. So there was this thing that was going around on Twitter and a bunch of stuff like this about this embargo that I think it's actually only streamers had, where they couldn't bring up certain things like other content creators. That's a common thing, I feel like, maybe in some other stuff, but like can't mention COVID-19 or anything like that. You can't mention like Chinese policies or anything like that.
Or feminist propaganda.
Yeah. For reviews, I personally never dealt with anything like that. I've never had a single thing like that. The weirdest things I always had was just like Atlas being like, hey, you can't stream the game or some shit. And it's just like, what?
Atlas is streaming restrictions are crazy.
Yeah, Atlas was super weird about a lot of shit I remember. But like, I never ran into anything, even close to like what this is going on. But apparently this is only for streamers. But Gene, as someone who's been playing it, I assume this is not, you did not run into this at all either.
No. Our embargo restrictions were don't show anything after chapter 2, which is a lot of the game. So that was also problematic for some people. I think some creators found out that they had some kind of some reviewers where it said that if you some fuck up or something, then you might be, liable financially, which they didn't want to do. So I think there is some funny stuff going on in terms of review copies going out. But when it comes to the American press, or at least for me, all we got was a standard embargo. Don't talk about stuff after chapter 2, which was already weird, but that's fine. And we didn't know how many fucking chapters this game is, anyways. But publishers normally wouldn't send out this kind of reviewers. But I don't know, Mr. Happy, as a creator, have you? I think streamer embargoes and streamer restrictions are a lot, as we talked about with Atlas, are a lot more weirder and clandestine. So have you ever seen anything like this before, or does it remind you of something before?
No, I've never had any company that I've worked with tell me I can't talk about something politically related to the country of origin for the game that I'm playing. They're like, hey, okay, I have one that I will disclose that is very specific, but it's still nothing like this. Maple Story M, I think it was, or Maple Story 1, one or two, wanted to do something, but I was not allowed to mention Maple Story 2 at all. And I was a branded content creator for Maple Story 2. I worked with them, they flew me out, I did tons of stuff. So it was like how am I gonna stop people from it's gonna be all over the chat. So I just had to be like, no. I can't. There's no way I'm gonna stop that. That's like if you ask me to play a game that's called I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a fake Souls name off the top of my head. It's like, oh, you can't mention Dark Souls while you're playing this game. It's like, that's impossible. How am I gonna do that? So that's among the weirdest ones I got. Was literally, I can understand not mentioning competitors, but that one was don't mention our own game that we shut down. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
That's very strange.
Yeah, that's super weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, messages like that are pretty uncommon in my experience and most people's experience. But
yeah, I also saw it reminded people of when Riot Games banned an emote on League of Legends, where it was like this. Have you ever seen this?
I haven't seen that emote. No.
This emote before. Yeah. So this emote is actually from women in Korea. What they do this to men who complain about feminism, and they say, "Well, your dick must be this small." So that's what this is
okay.
About it.
Okay.
I knew it got banned. I never looked into why. I was just like, "Oh, that's strange."
Yeah. It became a universal symbol of mockery for anti-feminism in Korea.
I feel like that's not just Korea. I mean, I've seen that's in media everywhere.
Exactly, yeah. But in Korea, they're definitely like this. So that's why there was a Kali emote where she was going like this.
Yeah,
it looked really good, and then they changed it to her going like this instead.
That's funny.
So that's one mention of Riot Games not wanting a feminist propaganda in their game. Which, to be fair, you don't want to be blatantly accused of having a small dick, especially if you have a big cock like mine. So
yeah, totally. Cool. All right. Well, I'm curious about Black Myth. I'll probably check it out still. Hopefully, it's good.
Yep.
All right. Happy Honkai Star Rail.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I have a little experience with Genshin Impact, but not a ton. But I know this is a turn-based game. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Honkai came out 2023, and it kind of almost immediately, it didn't really usurp Genshin Impact, but it certainly became Poya versus new talk of the town, and I think it's still more the talk of the town than Zenless, which honestly I haven't really seen a great deal of positivity towards.
No one's really talking about that game too much now.
Yeah, I think the thing Honkai has over both of them is how easy they are to play on mobile. It being a turn-based game, it's much easier to actually take the game with you and play it and do it on your spare time. Like Genshin playing it on mobile or playing Zenless on mobile. Zenless is, I think, better than Genshin still on mobile, but it's just so much more of a pain. And they've got good character writing, good character design. They've got all the stuff from Genshin that they already had. But I started playing again for the 1-year anniversary. I started catching up on all the patches. And man, that game is I feel like it was really struggling for the last little bit that I played it. The story writing, they brought in a new story writer for some of the newer stuff, and he did Honkai Third Impact. And he's notorious for a very long, drawn out. He's tell, don't show is how you would describe it. So a lot of, I'm going to tell you everything that's happening, but I'm not going to use like environment or cinematic. And it just drags for hours and hours and hours. And they like to reference Third Impact a lot. So there's like, if you didn't play Third Impact, you just like lose out on like half the patch material as a whole. So that one's been tough. Dawn Trail has pulled me away from it, thankfully, in the last month and a half. So I haven't gotten to 2.4, but I don't know. I think you look at FromSoft releasing all their games and you go, I can't wait for the next FromSoft game. I look at Hoyoverse releasing all their games. I'm like, please stop. Just please stop releasing. I'm tired of either a Hoyoverse game or a Hoyo-like, because that's the other one is the Hoyo-likes, like a Tower of Fantasy and stuff coming out for
Wuthering Waves.
Yeah, Wuthering that already disappeared into the abyss from what I understand. So it's like, I think that type of game has burned me out faster than any other like genre or like type of game in recent years. It's been brutal. Hoyo. I mean, well, what else would you call them?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There you go.
The Hoyoverse. They're really trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Kind of like paint a picture for me, kind of what it's like to play. Like I remember with Genshin Impact, you have the open world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's the like Honkai? Is it open world also, or is it more linear?
It's more like levels than it is open world. So you go into a map. The map has chests, puzzles, monsters, bosses, a story. How much of that you do or how much you don't do is up to you. But it's way more digestible. I think that was the big thing. Like Genshin, you're kind of excited. It was around the time where, we had there was still a lot of Breath of the Wild excitement. Everyone was trying to find like big worlds to explore. It was like amongst that craze. But I think honestly, Genshin's also responsible for people kind of not wanting that a little bit after they played that a little bit much. And so this is way more like compact and digestible. All the event content's permanent too, whereas Genshin constantly was cycling in, FOMO content where like you would miss it and then it would be gone.
Yeah.
Honkai just makes the rewards have they're more rewards while it's first released, but later you can still do it and get a bunch of stuff and get all the story and everything too. So it's far more evergreen than their other title is, which is honestly was one of the big reasons why I wanted to play it. Cause I don't want to be like, you should have played 6 months ago because of this event. And that was the best character,
I dropped out of Genshin because a character I really, really wanted, I just ended up missing those months, and I'm just like, I was busy,
That still happens here with the character roles. They bring them back more frequently, I think, than Genshin did. But the actual events, and some of those events come with really useful characters automatically as well. So, it's just, it still has a lot of the things that like gacha gaming has made really popular. I think, especially after Hoyoverse's success with Genshin in 2021, we've seen it escalate dramatically from all companies. But it does the core gameplay elements in a way that a casual player should feel a lot better about actually logging in, and not as bad about not logging in, which I think is the crux of all live service at the moment. Is you don't log in, you feel like you missed it. You either are sad that you missed it or you stop playing altogether.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what makes 14 so great, because 14 is just evergreen. You can just go into dive into evergreen and just play a Realm Reborn. It's that same great game from 2014,
Yeah, they just had like limited events in 14. Like they had the 15 and 16 events, stuff like that. Those come back though, right? Happy they cycle in and out.
Yeah, there's only a few that don't come back because they at some point decided to add their items to the cash shop. So now they don't bring them back. So players don't be like, oh, well, now I bought this, but then you gave it away to players for free kind of deal, which they still kind of did. They just had the Twitch drop campaign. And that was a mount that they did with Butterfinger like a collaboration with Butterfinger a few years back. So they brought it back for free, which is funny because everyone was really excited because the Butterfinger campaign was US only. So like EU and Japan, like Japan had their own one, I think, but EU never got it. So Twitch drops, EU was like, yes, we got it. And everyone was really excited. But you look at WoW with their controversy at the moment, they're bringing an amount that was like valued at like $1,400 from the TCG. That's no longer
is it the
printed.
Spectral Tiger?
The Warhorse. I think it's Spectral Warhorse. Yeah.
Okay.
The Tiger was the one I was thinking of too, but I guess this is a different one. And that's a funny Twitch drop for War Within this week. And there's controversy about whether they should do that or not. And they're all getting like, some people are angry, but in 14, we're just like, yeah, dude, it's just a little green dude with I didn't buy a TCG for this. I'm fine.
Yeah, totally. How's the monetization, do you feel like in Honkai? Do you feel like pressure to spend money? Obviously, they want you to spend money in it, but do you feel gated by the game if you don't?
No, but I think that's more a product of I think one really big positive with the Hoyoverse community is they are very dedicated to showing you how to do things without spending money. While the content creators who spend money are larger because they'll be like, I spent $2,000 on this character and this is how good they are. But the free to play people, they really power it out. And I don't spend on those games unless I really want to. My chat, on the other hand, are a different story. But I feel like they do a pretty good job. I know a lot of people who are free to play who can do every event, who can do everything. They have to try a little harder, but that's about it. And it's also more isolated in terms of like your interactions with other players. Genshin's pretty isolated too, but like this, it's just, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's far more skill centric and far easier to build teams, it feels, than in Genshin or in other gachas in general. So exact same practices. And if you hate them, you hate them. They're no different.
Okay, cool.
You can get around them. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Maybe that's why they're so popular, is also that you don't feel like super gated off. I'd be really turned off is like pretty much to progress, you gotta spend $20 or something like that. It's like, well, I'm good.
I promise you, if you decide to spend on a Hoyoverse game, you're spending more than $20.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's I'm sure you go in thinking you'll spend $20, then you spend a lot more.
Yeah, Genshin Impact is a game that cost me hundreds of dollars. I was just like,
damn. All right, let's see. So Tello wrote in right here. Hello, gentlemen. I just recently got caught up in all the past main story quests for Honkai, and I've really enjoyed my time with the game so far. I even just got the Platinum Trophy last week. Mr. Happy, what has been your favorite planet / arc of the game so far? I really love the design and theme of Penacony, and especially enjoyed Aventurian's story. I'm sure I'm butchering all those names.
No, you're pretty close. Yeah, Penacony, Aventurine. I always called him Adventurine, but Aventurine is a type of jewel, apparently. I learned that. That's like the whole theme of those characters is they're named after jewels. Penacony is where I thought the writing was really slow. That's where they brought in that writer who like is just, I'm just going to constantly tell you things instead of showing you. I think what they want to tell in Penacony is far more captivating than elsewhere. But when I played it a year after it came out, I ended up being very, very partial to the Shenzhou, which it's like a war fleet they're a civilization that just exists in war fleets, essentially. And I thought they were far more interesting. It's a little bit more political, but not like in your face political, you know? Whereas Penacony had so many moving parts and some of them I don't think paid off very well, that it left me wanting. I was like, please, I can't wait to see where we go next. And hilariously enough, you know where they're going back to? Shenzhou. So they must have liked it as well.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on from Genshin, or Honkai, not Genshin. Let's talk about what I've been playing. Warhammer 40K Space Marine. Now, with the sequel coming up, I was like, yo, this game looks sick. I like the Warhammer universe. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I know a couple things, but I've always heard pretty positive things about this game. This game came out in 2011, so it's pretty damn old, and we're just now getting a sequel, which is wild. But I decided, like, it's time to hop in. Sequel's coming up. for the record, I play this on Steam, and this game is still $60 on Steam. Thank God I got it on sale. It goes on sale, so please wait for a sale for this game. Like, I'm shocked this game is still full price all these years later.
I think that's why I really want to play it or buy it. And when I saw it was still full price, I was like, I'm not buying a $60 game.
Yeah,
from 2011.
It's like insane.
I'm sorry.
That's like a Nintendo game.
Yeah, it's like a Nintendo game, yeah, essentially. But I got it for like $10 or $15. I was like, well, this is the cheapest it's fucking gonna get. So I snagged it up on Steam like a while ago. I just never got around to it. But yeah, I just started playing it. First of all, it's a very short game, the campaign. It took me like 5.5 hours to get through it. Definitely reminds me of the old days of like Gears of War 1. It came out around kind of that era, I guess, but very short game, very fun though, dude. Just for the premise, Warhammer stories are like Warhammer lore is like the most intense shit like ever, how deep it is and how much there is. And I just know very, very, very little about it. And you don't have to know anything about Warhammer lore to play this game. You can just hop right in, no problem. But you play as this ultra space marine named Titus, and essentially you're tasked with going to this giant factory plant that's been invaded by orcs. Now, orcs in this game are the fucking coolest thing. They're not like World of Warcraft orcs, which are cool and stuff like that. They're not Lord of the Rings orcs. They are green orcs, but their whole personality, they're like all British, like we British orcs, and literally all they like to do is fight. That is their only thing they live for, and they are very goofy about how they fight. Like they just have like jetpacks they ride on. They look like fucking idiots. They're always yelling. They just love war. They're so lovable for some reason, but you kill a shit ton of them in this game. But yeah, you get to play on this planet with you and two other space marines with you. And the whole point is just to liberate and kill a bunch of orcs to rescue this giant mech, pretty much, that you need to protect. So the story itself is very, very thin. Like, pretty much doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, these characters, you don't really learn much interesting from them. There's like a couple twists I guess are kind of interesting, but the story is just whatever. But honestly, once you're playing this game, you're not here for the story. The gameplay on this game is very fun. So it is a third-person game. You're running around as your Marine. It's a shooter, of course, so I think Gears of War. Not a cover-based shooter, though. You're not taking cover at all. But you can roll around, you can jump or a dodge, and it's all very smooth. You have 4 guns you can have equipped at a time. So you can switch between those. But you also have a melee weapon you use, which is very effective. It's like Gears of War mixed with a hack and slash kind of thing. Like the camera pans out a little bit when you pull out your melee, so you can see a little bit better. But you're just hacking through these orcs. Like you start with, I think you start with like a chainsaw sword, which is really fun. You can like cleave through these orcs, and it's all very bloody. There's also a lot of enemies on the field. I was very surprised about how much they could fit on the game without it taking like big performance dives, especially back in the day when this game came out. But yeah, you got like that chainsaw sword. You get an axe you can use later on too, and you can get like a giant hammer you can swing at guys. And what's cool is you can, of course, swing with them, but you can also stun the guys like mid combo by pushing a button, which leaves them open to an execution. Think like Doom 2016. You get them in that vulnerable state. You can perform an execution and get like health back and stuff like that. This is like the same thing, but it just feels like they did it before Doom. So you can do these visceral moves on these guys to get health back. But if you do it when there's a bunch of guys around, you still take damage. So you got to be kind of careful about when to do it. And it's the only way to get your health back in the game. You have a shield like Halo that recharges over time, but your max health, you need to essentially perform these executions to do it. But it's kind of weird. There's like not a whole lot to say about this game. It's very basic, and it's like, 5.5 hours, just go through it. You're going to shoot all these guys. You're going to fight a bunch of orcs. Not a lot of, there's a decent amount of different types of orcs, like snipers and stuff like that, guys on rockets and shoot rockets at you. There's a couple other factions that show up that are a little bit different, which is a nice change of pace. There's like one section where there's like turrets, which are just kind of annoying, but they're there, I guess, like that. Also, there's a couple segments where you get like a jetpack for your guy. You can like hover in the air and you can slam down on guys, which is really, really OP. It's like once you get that thing, that's just all you're fucking doing. You can shoot while you do it, but you literally don't need to. So you can just slam in all those guys like that. But like, there's a whole multiplayer mode for this game. I haven't played any of that yet, but I think people still play it to this day. It's like one of those games that has like a very niche community that still keeps it alive. But I haven't played it yet, so I can't really speak to that. But the campaign overall, it's fun. It's got some rough spots. Like I played on PC, and just sometimes some keys didn't work. Like they just didn't work. Like you have like a devil trigger thing you can activate to give you health back and do more damage, but sometimes I would just spam it and it just wouldn't activate. And I was like, all right, cool. One time I just got stuck on a gun turret and I just couldn't get off. So it's got some rough spots on PC. Some of the AI is kind of dumb. They get stuck behind stuff. But it's a fun, goofy game. It would be like a perfect rental game back in the day. You know, you go to Blockbuster or you Gamefly a game for a weekend or some shit. It'd be perfect for that. It's a good time. It got me much more excited for the sequel because I could see potential there. And I think for the time, it's probably a pretty damn good game. But right now, it's all right. It's definitely fun. I would not pay full price. Do not pay full price for this game. I'm telling you, man. Buy it when it's like $10 or something like that. You'll have a good time. But yeah, it was a pretty sick game, dude. I had a good time with it. Very short, but short and sweet. Oh, let's see. Dallas Reynolds wrote in about it. Greetings, summoners. I can't tell you how happy I am that Warhammer 40k Space Marine is getting a sort of resurgence ahead of the sequel. I'm a huge 40k fan. I'm probably even painting models as I'm listening right now, and I'm pumped for the sequel. I haven't touched the OG in a while, so I'm interested in what Brad has to say. Am I running off nostalgia? Is it as good as I remember? Do you even like it at all? Much love to all you do, and especially Dustin. Have a wonderful time. Like I said, Dallas, I think it's still a good game. It is rough in a lot of areas, but I still think if you like third-person shooters, you can go back to this game and have a good time. It does not overstay its welcome. It pretty much keeps things moving, so you're going to have a good time. Do you boys have any thoughts or anything about the game before we move on?
Yeah, I haven't messed with Warhammer much either. I think they released, what was it? Vermintide's the one with the rats. What's the other one they have?
There's Darktide.
Yeah.
That's 40k.
Yeah, I wasn't super into that. That was like I was like, this is like I'd rather just play Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, it's like Left 4 Dead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But everyone seems to rave about this. I hear the Space Marines are like assholes, like they're terrible organization that you're playing as, but they're really strong and they're really cool.
Yes, they are really cool. Like I said, the lore is like ridiculously deep. There's like 300 plus books about this kind of shit. It's insane how much there is. And there are so many Warhammer games, so many different types of games. The Warhammer crosses in like every genre too. There was like a Rogue Trader, I think, which is like a CRPG that came out pretty recently. There was Bolt Gun, which is like a boomer shooter. So it's like Warhammer, man, they go everywhere. So they got you covered on pretty much any genre you're into.
I don't understand who is the publisher of Warhammer? How are they making so many things?
I don't know, man. I'm not really sure, Gene. People just fucking eat it up, man.
Who owns Warhammer? Games Workshop.
Games Workshop owns Warhammer, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many developers.
Why can't like other video game IP have as much games as Warhammer does?
I don't know.
Like, why is there no Halo boomer shooter?
Just
that's a good question.
We don't need to ask any more questions about Halo.
Like, why isn't Microsoft, the biggest company in the world, making a huge deal about its marquee franchise like the way Warhammer is?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Warhammer, dude, they just
we should be drowning in Halo stuff. You know?
Yeah,
we were like, for a few years.
Halo Wars and ODST.
Oh, I loved Wars. Yeah,
Halo Wars was great. You know,
they were doing it.
Where's our third person murder simulator for Halo?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't there a game like Warhammer Space Marine, but you're the arbiter and you're running around with
Spartans or something?
Yeah, and just fucking up humans, you know, just stabbing humans, you know.
I don't know, man. Yeah, they should just do like Warhammer. Warhammer's got something for everybody.
So I'm very interested in the Warhammer universe. I'm so interested. I don't know jack shit about the Warhammer IP other than people like to play with figures. And,
the tabletop game.
And then there's a ton of it. So I'm awestruck at this IP at how much it's like Star Wars. You know, how do I not know jack shit about this? It's crazy. So I'm really excited excited for Space Marine 2. I want to check out Space Marine 1.
Oh my, yeah. And it's like, this is just the 40K. There's also normal Warhammer, which is like the fantasy setting. Like I had a couple of the tabletop figures when I was younger, and I painted a couple of them. And I played the MMO back in the day. Happy, did you ever play that? What was it, Age of Reckoning?
No, that's one I didn't play.
Okay. It was all right at the time. But yeah, I mean, Warhammer, fucking insanely popular IP.
Yeah, Warhammer is like the Western Fate. You know,
the Western Fate of all the things you're going to compare it
to. Because like, the Fate series is another thing that's like massive and super complex and huge and popular and still ongoing. And there's so many Fate products everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know jack shit about Fate either. I played the Fate Dynasty Warriors game. That was good.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Space Marine 2 is looking real good.
Yeah, it was one of the few Muso games not made by Koei Tecmo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, Space Marine 2, 3-player co-op, dude. Looking real nice. Looking awesome. All right, boys. It's time for Sorted Out on this segment. Sorry, Sorted Out! If I don't get enthusiastic about it, people get upset. On this segment, we just talk about something that's kind of something we want to complain about in the game industry, something that's bothering us a little bit. So it needs a little sorting, you know, they got to work that shit out. Could be a game itself, could be a company, could be a person at a game company. Also, if you don't have one, it's totally cool. Sometimes some shit doesn't need sorting. It's just the way it is. Gene, let's start with you.
Cute cat, Mr. Happy's background.
Yeah. There was a cat, yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah. Oh, we both have secret lab chairs too. Oh, you got the Final Fantasy 14 chair. That's cool.
I sure did.
Wow, and, the pillow. Oh man.
I have my other pillow right here.
Yeah. Oh. Sorted out for me. This is gonna be in response to the breaking news today. Sorted out Microsoft. Why don't you just become a third-party publisher?
They are slowly, it seems like.
Real slowly. Just rip the band-aid off. You know, your fans are suffering, everyone's suffering, the news cycle is suffering, Phil Spencer is suffering to have to figure out all these different ways to say yes, we still care about all these different things, and also making sure that Indiana Jones will be on every console. I can't wait to play Indiana Jones on the Switch too, you know?
Yeah. The story came out today that there's the rumor that, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but maybe it has later. I haven't seen yet, Gene. But that Indiana Jones is coming. Yeah, okay. He's an insider saying that Indiana Jones is coming early 2025. So like the first half of the year. So it's 6 months pretty much window. So yeah, me and Gene were just laughing about that because Gene was just like, why do I even have a fucking Xbox? Essentially.
Yeah.
Look, who's going to be waiting 6 months? Or who's gonna not be waiting 6 months? Oh my god, the new Indiana Jones game is out. Gotta buy an Xbox now to play here this year.
Yeah. If you have a PS5, you're not gonna buy an Xbox to play Indiana Jones. Probably.
No one's gonna buy an Xbox for Indiana Jones.
To be fair, the only console that really like force scripts you in is the Switch, because like PlayStation's also going the route of like they're really slow about it because they know like we got to hold on to it for a while. But it's interesting because Square recently specifically stated they were going to stop doing Sony exclusives so much. 16 is on PC. There's rumors of it coming to Xbox as well. They put Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox finally after a decade. It was really painful watching Phil Spencer stand in front of a crowd and be Phil Spencer.
I was there, dude. It was awkward. Everyone was just like, what's going on?
Talking about Final Fantasy 14 in a very Phil Spencer way.
Coming to Xbox, and everyone's just like, I already play the game, and this is
We love that all of you are so excited to join the Xbox family.
Yeah.
Watashi wa Phil Spencer desu no.
Yeah. Phil desu. Yeah.
Every single Xbox executive says they're Japanese that way. Phil desu, you know?
Phil desu. Yeah.
Xbox no. Phil desu.
Yeah, Octopath 2 hit Xbox recently also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy, what do you think? Anything that needs sorting out this week from you?
bro, we just thought Concord came out recently, or the beta was recently, and it's that game is the encapsulation of please stop making live service games so much. Like the last year has seen last several years. I mean, a game that actually slipped our game of the year mention was Hades, and Hades 2 is now in its early access. Yeah, I know,
right?
Crazy,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
completely forgot about Hades. Yeah, oh my god,
was that 2021 Hades? Yeah, I think it was 21. I'm almost certain it was 20. It was 20 or 21.
Then I revised it and I think I ripped apart. Then
it's either no. Actually, I think it's 2020. It's somewhere.
I think it's 2020.
Okay.
It's 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Okay, yeah. But like in the last few years, we've seen so many single player games that like even if you don't think they stood a chance, end up being like monstrously popular. They get rave reviews, they sell well, whether it's something like Baldur's Gate 3 or even something like Returnal, which kind of shocked a lot of people and how much they liked it years ago. Like those are the games that get talked about. Yeah, you get your Palworlds like you had earlier this year occasionally, but even that was for most people a $30 investment they played with their friends at worst. Like that was all it was. It was low buy-in, low concern. It wasn't really a service game, you know? And every service game is just crashing and burning unless you're like, you know, Fortnite or League of Legends or Dota, like the ones that are already there, or a Hoyoverse game, which even then Zenless is, you know, wearing that thing. So I think we really need to just like, do we really need to stop seeing as many live service games? It's just not working, especially in the last 12 months. It's just so many disasters.
I can't believe Concord is out this week.
Is it out this week?
Friday.
I thought it was.
Friday.
I knew the beta thing was like not too long ago.
Oh man, it's this week. Concord
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's coming out
August
on 23rd, baby.
Okay,
a real bad time.
I hate to do this, but like time frame prediction for end of service.
Oh, how long it'll last?
18 months is my safe bet. 6 months? Wow.
6 months. I have no faith.
Well, you know what? Maybe, yeah. If they were smart, then it should be 6 months.
I think it'll be like 3 months until they put it on PS Plus, where it's free for all those people.
Oh, okay.
3 or so 4 months. But I could see it shutting down if things don't change mid next year. I think they'll try to ride it out for a little bit. They have 2 seasons planned, but if they have anything beyond that, I don't know.
Listen, if Exo Primal could last as long as it did, I guess
That's
maybe.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, Suicide Squad is still going on with the season of Freeze, which actually doesn't look terrible.
It's terrible.
But
it's Suicide Squad.
Not a good game.
Yeah, but it's Suicide Squad. So there you go.
The issue is that when I play Suicide Squad, I play Concord. I was like, I think I like Suicide Squad better, even. You know? So, what the fuck are we even doing?
Not good.
Concord's not good, and no one knows about this game coming out this week.
Yeah, it's gonna have a rough time. I can't think of anything really off the top of my head that needs sorting. I'm not annoyed with anybody at the moment. But
Do you
maybe
think they're gonna release Concord on Xbox?
Oh, well, that'd be really funny.
That'd be funny.
The one game they do is Xbox, or they put it on Switch or some shit.
Oh, my goodness.
That's when you know it's really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. That game's that game's DOA.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from the audience about this. This is from Adam Belharby. Hey, some bums. Sort it out to everyone playing only on keyboard and mouse and refusing to use controllers and vice versa. I've been a PC player my whole life, so I had to learn to use a controller pretty late. But the small change made me fall in love with so many more games. I cry when I see Souls games played with a mouse and survival games played with a controller. Learn different control peripherals, people. You'll start enjoying games you previously hated. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you refuse to play a game because it's, it doesn't have pad support or it's mouse and keyboard only, you're definitely going to miss out on some things. But I mean, if someone wants to play a Souls game with a mouse and keyboard, I don't really care. Whatever. I won't do it, but I'd prefer a controller for that kind of game, but whatever. Tons of people in 14 play with controller. I'm not going to play with a controller in that game, but tons of people do.
Yeah.
I remember this clip of this girl at a college, like study hall or whatever, and she had her laptop open and she's playing Elden Ring on her mouse pad on the trackpad. It's like WASD.
That's funny.
Doing this, I'm like, that is some skill.
You're gonna have a rough time, but God bless, I guess.
That's like that League pro who played with I think it was a trackball or something. He played with, what's the one with the ball on the side and you just use your
dude, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it. That is some psychotic shit.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
Yeah, point taken. I don't play mouse and keyboard, so I know I'm definitely, it's a huge reason why I probably haven't gotten far in Baldur's Gate 3. Because I know that it will just be a lot better. Because I know in the back of my mind I should be playing this in mouse and keyboard, and it'll just be a lot more fun, and it'll just be a lot more engaging. But I like controllers.
I like controller on BG3.
Yeah.
You just don't want to use the mouse. You're just like, meh.
Yeah, it destroys my arms to use a mouse and keyboard for video games. So I don't want to do that. So it's an accessibility issue.
Yeah, I've definitely known people that like refused to use a mouse and keyboard in games. And I was like, okay, all right, so be it. All right, boys. Oh wait, here we go. This is from Christopher. Hello, summoners. This seems like the place to ask. The Final Fantasy series confuses me. I've played 7 Remake, Crisis Core, and 16 with some experience with 14 and OG FF7. What the fuck are these games? I tried playing 6 and don't even understand how this is the same series as 16, which is just an overlong and great Devil May Cry game. I want to try these games, but I feel like I have no sense of what I'm getting into when I turn one on. Did I ruin the old games for myself starting where I did? Thoughts? Sort it out, Square Enix? Question mark. So Christopher has no idea what Final Fantasy series, or I guess how old the series is also, because it's pretty old, Christopher. So there's going to be quite the gap in some tech and stuff like that. When if you're going from like 16 to 6, it's going to be quite a different jump. But what do you think about this, Happy, as a Final Fantasy expert?
How do I describe it? So I'll actually just repeat what I think it was. It was either Naoki Yoshida or it was Kitase who said that Final Fantasy is whatever the director at the time envisions it is. And ultimately, you're just looking at references that are similar. You'll also have like the same summon, same jobs, some character names that show up, character archetypes that show up. But you're essentially entering several different fantasy/sci-fi worlds, steampunk worlds in some cases, that just take you through kind of a climactic story. That's at its core level, it's not much different than almost any other game. It's just the structure of the games are way different. Obviously, Final Fantasy VI being ATB turn-based, which is more action-centric because the game is constantly moving forward even when you're not making decisions. But you go back a little further and you get true turn-based where you decide all your moves and then the turn plays out based on speed, something more Dragon Quest-y. And then you, of course, have the action games. You have the return to turn-based with Final Fantasy X. You have the MMOs with 11 and 14. And they're all something a little bit different. They might be familiar. You might recognize, like, oh, this is called ATB in Final Fantasy 13, but it's nothing like Final Fantasy 6's ATB, But the ideas are all similar. So it's really just have an open mind and work within your comfort zone. Maybe stick to the ones that are older, but not quite as old as 6 first. So you can have an idea of like kind of how the series go backwards instead of jumping to the beginning and going forward in a sense. So you ease yourself into some of those ideas. You ease yourself back into the blocky PlayStation 1 graphics and you ease yourself back into the old pixel art and everything instead of taking the deep dive.
Yeah, totally. I agree. What about you, Gene?
I am wondering how Square Enix solves a problem like Christopher, our dear friend Christopher, because I think there are a lot of people like Christopher who don't understand jack shit about Final Fantasy, anything about Final Fantasy. It's as mysterious as Warhammer and Fate is to me, I think Square Enix is keenly aware of this issue, which is why they've been trying to solve it for many, many years. I think it's very, very evident in the way Final Fantasy 13 is designed. obviously with the linear path. It's obvious in the way Final Fantasy 15 opens by saying this is a Final Fantasy for beginners and old timers alike. You know, they really want to assure you you're okay here. You're okay. You made it to Final Fantasy 15. Even if this is your first one, you're okay. And of course, there's that extremely, extremely cringe advertisement that Final Fantasy 16 did with all of the athletes, that many of them who ended up competing in the fucking Olympics. I had no idea who those fucking athletes were, but it was funny to watch Olympic coverage and be like, oh, I recognize them from the Final Fantasy 16 commercial. You know, so like, what the fuck audience are you actually reaching with Olympian athletes saying, oh, you can play Final Fantasy 16 every time. It's so action packed and everything. And these people don't even fucking speak English because these are international athletes. So I think Square Enix is really, really trying to tackle this issue, but they're at odds with the fact that every new Final Fantasy game is like Kitase or I think Kitase said that. I'm forgetting, but definitely every Final Fantasy is the vision of the director. How do they solve that problem while still brandishing the Final Fantasy IP and also attracting a new audience? I don't know. I think they're trying. That's why they have Final Fantasy Strangers in Paradise. They try to retell the first game. You know, they're kind of like throwing everything at the wall to try to make Final Fantasy stick. And I'm not sure what they can do to solve a problem like Christopher, it's 2024 or 2024. How do you not know that every Final Fantasy game is different at this point? I'm serious. Like I don't understand how these people exist, but it's because I live in this world where Final Fantasy has always been around, and I've known for 5 years that every Final Fantasy 5 is different. So it eludes me that there are still people like this. Man, I think Square Enix is really struggling to answer that question too.
Yeah,
I'm not happy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even in a lot of their marketing for 16, they very specifically state, while this is the 16th entry in the Final Fantasy series, each entry is a standalone entry. So you don't have to have played the other games to have played this one. Be sure to go try out those other ones as well if you ever want to take a look back at the franchise. And I think we're going to see that with everything that's Final Fantasy branded from this point on. They're going to constantly, because they're going to go to 17. I think at some point they said they considered dropping the number for 16. They only kept it because it's legacy. And I also think that dropping the number doesn't solve the problem anyway, you know? So I don't know what the solution I don't know what the solution is, but I can tell you what, it's not hiring Tom Holland to say he's going to be the Warrior of Darkness while Hannibal Buress asks questions about him.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I can't forget about that.
I completely forgot about that. But yes, exactly. They're really, really trying hard to get like this mainstream appeal. It's like, oh, look, even dumbass Tom Holland enjoys this game. You know, even the Olympians, they don't have time to play 15 other Final Fantasy games. But look at them, they're enjoying Final Fantasy 16 just the same.
I figured it out. They saw the old WoW commercials with like Mr. T.
Oh, the celebrities, and Ozzy. Yeah.
They're like 15 years too late, but they saw those. They're like, why don't we do that?
That's true. Yeah. That was like Wrath of the Lich King and shit days. Yeah.
I'm a Night Elf Mohawk.
But Blizzard still does that. They were using fucking Shang-Chi. What's his face? The actor from Shang-Chi.
Oh, it made sense when they did it. It doesn't make sense when Square does it.
It's weird when Square does it. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah, weird shit.
I don't know, but yeah, Christopher, I'm not sure. Tell us in the comments, like, how were you able to avoid? Is like Final Fantasy this strange new universe, like the way I talk about Fate or Warhammer? Is that what's going on?
I guess so.
It's like trying to explain someone why baseball is different than basketball, you know?
Yeah. Let us know, Christopher. All right. Keep it up time. The exact opposite of sorted out stuff we're pleased with right now. Gene, let's start with you again.
This is going to be a weird one. Keep it up to limited run games for some reason.
Okay. Is it because of Sonic?
Well, because of Sonic, yeah.
The statue.
Because they just announced today on Monday, August 19th, a Sonic Cross Shadow Generations limited edition, limited run set. It's $250. It's a lot, but it comes with a Sonic and Shadow statue of them standing on a Dreamcast. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, for all the Dreamcast fans, they're like, oh shit.
The
question is it the size of
an
actual Dreamcast is what I want to know.
It looks like the size of an actual Dreamcast. It looks really good. I still have my Dreamcast, so I could just recreate that right now if I wanted to.
Yeah, you could do that. You could absolutely do that. Save yourself $250.
Yeah. But for some reason, limited run games also, in a broader perspective, is like landing all of these deals with not even indie companies now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing. So that's why I'm like sorted out. I'm not even sure if I want to sort like or
well, this is keep it up. Yeah. You're torn.
I'm torn between keep it up or get the fuck away from get the fuck away from Sonic the Hedgehog. Or I don't know what limited run games is doing, right? But I guess they're keeping it up by making sure that they have all these like big brand deals with fucking Sega and Sony or whatever, like all of these major companies. So I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's interesting. So I'm keeping an eye on how they're keeping it up.
All right, a soft keep it up.
A soft keep it up, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Happy. What about you?
I'm torn. I don't think the industry is really doing anything that I want them to keep doing.
Yeah.
I'm more like, it's more like every time something good happens, it's like I pat them on the back and go, good job. And then I move on because I'm like, now I've got all the other problem children to worry about. Let's see who's got the list here. And then I go through all the negatives and you just find that one glint. I think in the same vein as that, though, as you were saying that, one thing that I definitely want them to keep it up, is physical editions for games. Because more and more I'm seeing games I don't expect to have physical editions, especially indies are going out of their way to try to have physical editions more and more nowadays. And I feel like indies have kind of paved the way for a lot of what is positive in gaming right now. So for them to kind of keep to that tradition or to try to keep to that tradition more, I think is more of what the industry needs and more of what the big box companies need to see happening, and not another live service where every reward is digital and everything inherently has no value and they've just squeezed you for all your money and you have nothing to show for it. And then it goes out of service in 6 months. Sorry, Concord.
Let's see. I'll give my keep it up to Square. Finally got that PC port of 16 coming. So that's nice. It's coming up September. So I would like to check it out sometime down the line. I'm not ready to go back to it quite yet, but seeing that, I would like to play that game with very good stability, very good frame rate is how I want to play that game. So looking forward to that in the future.
I'm afraid of my social media is going to have a lot of mods popping up.
Oh, you bet, dude. Whoa, it's going to get wild. Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot. Good and bad.
Oh, yeah.
All right. This is from Matt Brown. Hi, Summoners. Just want to say to keep it up to Lily Mo Games. I bought Twin Breaker on Xbox recently, and the bite-sized gameplay has been fantastic for quick play sessions in between my delivery job. Keep up the great work, team. I'm a longtime listener and appreciate everything y'all do. Thank you, Matt. And this is from Austin. Keep it up, miHoYo. After writing off the game for years due to the dumb name and people bad-mouthing it, I jumped into Genshin Impact on random whim. This game is dope as hell. I put in about 180 hours in just over a month and am absolutely going to get the platinum and 100% the trophies. The story is pretty decent so far. Just finished Liu's, I guess. Combat is at a nice balance of not too shallow and not too deep for me, and most of all, the world is gorgeous and just a blast to explore. And the music, my God, the music. Just incredible vibes. And I'm finding that even though I haven't spent a single cent so far, I do plan at some point to support the team's work. Psyched for when I get to Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero. Take care, guys. Well, Austin, you're playing a dangerous game.
Love careful. Genshin rules, but don't spend $100 on it.
Yeah,
Good job.
Be careful, man.
Yeah.
because it can go real quick.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about starting to play years after is all the freebies that were there are now compounded and you feel real good. But when you get to that end point and the freebies stop flowing and then the new character comes out and you're like, I don't quite have enough. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. So you're like, I'll do that. You get the character. You're like, oh, but what if I had a C1? I get a duplicate.
Yes, that's how they get you, man.
I need the weapon too.
Yeah, it's brutal. They know what they're doing. They're geniuses. All right. Let's talk about a game. Gene, I have actually never played this one.
Really?
I played some of the first one, but I've never played Zone of the Enders 2. No.
Oh, I love
Let's talk about Zone of the Enders 2. Yeah.
Wow.
First of all, I'm curious. Have you been on your Kojima kick still? Is that why you revisited this?
I have been on my Kojima kick. I've been trying to replay every single Kojima game. Still have to download RetroArch, the emulator, so I can play Snatcher. I think Snatcher. I've never played Snatcher.
Okay.
I'm Police Knots. So I haven't played. The only two Kojima games I've never played are the visual novel games. But yeah, it's this is definitely part of me kind of being re-addicted to Kojima games again, and also me discovering that Zone of the Enders 2, the Mars edition, was not just a VR game. It's just Zone of the Enders 2 for PS4, and it includes a PSVR 1 support, which I heard is really cool, and I saw some videos of it. Damn. It's interesting because Zone of the Enders, if you don't know, is a mech game. And instead of a cockpit and like the head or whatever, it's actually like the dick.
Yeah, the actual cock. Yeah.
So it's the actual cock of the robot. What's funny is that in the VR mode, you can actually see the arms like above your head. Like,
whoa, that's wild.
It's wild, but it actually makes sense. It actually makes the VR mode make kind of sense. And because you're the cock, you're the center of gravity. So
yeah,
so it just feels it actually feels natural just being the
I'm gonna put that line in my back pocket. I'm gonna save that one for later.
see, I'm the cock. I'm the center of gravity. But yeah, it's just Zone of the Enders 2 in 4K and blazing fast 60 frames or 120 frames on PC. So I bought it both on PC and PS4. I've just been playing that. What's there to say? One of the things that I love about Kojima games is that Kojima games have a certain font to them. They feel a certain way, but they definitely sound a certain way. Zone of the Enders 2 uses so many of the same similar sounds that MGS2 did. As soon as you boot up the menu, it just sounds exactly like a Kojima game, And Death Stranding does too. It has that kind of tech feel, And Kojima games are really the only games that have this like future tech, Probably because a lot of the tech is being designed by Yoji Shinkawa, which is still here.
Yeah.
But Zone of the Enders 2 is a fantastic game. To me, it's one of the best examples of Kojima as a producer. When he recognized that the first one had issues, he brought in a new director, Shuya Murata, which is also his co-writer and the Metal Gear series, revamped the entire game. So the first game, here's one interesting problem-solving issue that he did. In the first game, Zone of the Enders 1 for PlayStation 2 aged very poorly. Very short game, about 3-4 hours. But probably the biggest aging, besides the actual controls, is the cutscenes. And acting, the cutscenes were terrible. The cutscenes look like PS1 level 3D models. Just doesn't age very well, right? So what does Zone of the Enders 2 do? They just take out all the cutscenes all together, and all the narrative is being told through codec conversations. And so is Kojima being able to solve an issue and like really, really elegantly in his own way. And again, that's why I want to revisit Snatcher and Police Knots, because I feel like a lot of what he learned during the visual novel days really, really helped him kind of streamline the way he was able to tell stories. So Zone of the Enders 2 was a complete mess, and it's like, okay, well, Zone of the Enders 1 was a complete mess. So why don't we just have all the conversations take place within the robots themselves, and then they're communicating themselves through the airwaves, because it's really the robots that are the most important thing. And Kojima is one of those directors that really understands, like, okay, no one's really here for the human interactions and the human face-to-face. So we're only going to put that in an animated cutscene at the beginning. and everything else is all drama via the robots. But beyond that, though, it's just one of the most interesting action games of all time. Some people say that it didn't age well. This is kind of a conversation that you and I have Brad, in terms of game design. It feels like a sequel to our little argument that we had about Elden Ring boss battles, or like from South boss battles. To bring everyone up to speed, I was saying I'm a little tired of boss battles that kind of are clearly inspired by Artorias, very much the dance of back and forth and rolling and everything like that. I'm more interested in boss battles that present an interesting scenario. Obviously, Bed of Chaos is the worst case example, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying that the Bed. So I'm clearly not saying that the Bed of Chaos is a good example of a good boss fight, but they should revisit that kind of style and try to make it better. A version of that I think that worked amazingly well in Elden Ring was the Radahn fight, the very first one. The Festival of Radahn. Feels like you're fucking invading Normandy Beach, and you got all your summons with you, and then so the game is being told through the story in that way. Zone of the Enders 2 does something interesting where one of your friend characters gets hacked by AI, and then so her robot is attacking you, and what you have to do in this segment is instead of attacking her, instead of having an all-out boss battle, you have to parry her. And then once you parry her, she'll be stunned, and you have to grab her. And then during the grab, your mech AI will be hacking into her mech AI. Basically, you have to parry and grab, and that's how you win the boss fight. That's kind of annoying, right? Especially in terms of modern game design. I feel like if this game was designed with modern sensibilities, it would just be a mech fight. Just fight them, just bash her brains in, and then boom, you saved her, right? You have to save the person. You have to fight the person to save them. That's a lot of modern game design, So I really respect ZOE 2. We don't really get games like this where it's like the gameplay has to inform the story. You can't hit this woman. You can't hit her. So it's really interesting things like that still persist. Obviously, there's still so many cool fights. There's still so many cool fights in Zone of Enders. Where you're like clashing swords. I feel like it's one of the only games that still looks like this. Even Armored Core 6 doesn't look as cool as Zone of Enders 2, So that's where I'm at. Where I was just like, I don't think any game has looked kind of cooler than Zone of Enders 2 in terms of combat. I think maybe DMC 5 is finally close. But even when I look at Final Fantasy 16, a game I love, it still doesn't look as cool as the way swords clash in Zone of the Enders, and the way you can grab a mech in Zone of the Enders and swing them around and then toss them into other enemies. The environments are destructible too, so you can just grab a robot and just throw them into a pillar, and then like everything starts coming down. And there's so many different particle effects. The lock-on system is cool because the lock-on system copies basically what Rez, well, not really what Rez and Panzer Dragoon does, but you hold the shoot button and then just kind of wipe yourself across different enemies, and you just release like 100 different lasers out into the atmosphere and to attack the enemies. It's just visually so cool. It's like a mixture of like Rez and Armored Core, and we still don't have a game like Zone of Enders. No. If I want to play a game like Zone of Enders, you can only play Zone of Enders. Yeah.
Get a friend and do the arena mode.
Yeah, exactly. There's an arena mode in Zone of Enders too. It just becomes a fighting game. You can just choose any of the bosses. Remember how I talked about how Artorias was originally controllable? They just put that in Zone of Enders too. So all of the cool mechs, one of the coolest mechs, and this is I'm going to spoil something. But this was in the trailers for Zone of Enders 2. But one of the mechs is the Vic Viper, which is the ship from Gradius.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the ship from Gradius is literally just a ship in Zone of Enders 2, and it turns into a mech, and you can control it. You can transform it into the Vic Viper, and then it has little options that can shoot up missiles, just like in Gradius. It's incredible. Konami, and again, it reminds me, fucking Konami has all these fucking great IP that they just that just going to die. You know, Gradius is
no, it's not going to. There's a Gradius slot machine out there somewhere.
Yeah, pachinko machine, something.
There is. I'm sure there is. But
Happy. I know you're a big Zone of the Enders fan.
Yeah,
Talk to me.
I mean, what else is there really to say? Zone of the Enders was probably so the funny thing is, I didn't play Zone of the Enders until after playing Armored Core. And it was such a different feel that Zone of the Enders 2 is a game that is not very long. The first one's shorter, but even Zone of the Enders 2 isn't very long. But you very much just kind of want to play it again after you beat it. And there are some reasons too, like those arena mode characters, you can find them in New Game Plus, and that's where you unlock them. There's like secrets hidden all over that lead to extra boss battles that unlock additional playable characters in the arena mode. And back then that was like that. I mean, that was awesome to do that. I mean, that goes back to Mortal Kombat and the unlocking secret characters, and Super Smash Brothers, leaving my game on and unlocking Mewtwo after just sitting in a battle for 7 hours just to get Mewtwo or something like that. Yeah. So I love that kind of stuff. So to get that in a game that plays as well as that, that's just literally not game design philosophy anymore. It's either buy it or it's, unlockable through a first playthrough. I mean, yeah, you get some games that are like, you got to kind of play them a few times, but this is like, you want to play it a few times over. Especially if you paid full price, because you're not going to want to stop after 10 hours is 8 to 10 hours, I think, for Zone of the Enders too.
I think like with the cutscenes is probably like a good 6 to 8 hours. If you skip a lot of cutscenes, you can beat the game in 3 hours easily. Yeah. Yeah, the game can be really short. There's only one part of Zone of the Enders 2 I don't like, and it's because I'm impatient. Does that inform me? The mines? The mines, yeah. It's the one where she tell you go left, go right. No, it's when you have to go down. That's the worst one. There's one where you have to. I remember. Yeah. Because I'm just like, because you can't really angle the camera. You just have to kind of like see them, and you're just like, and PlayStation 2 hitboxes are not the kindest thing.
Yeah,
it's a little rough. True. Yeah.
All right, Chris Yaunt wrote in. What's up, Summoners? Gene, glad to see Zone of the Enders being brought up. If a third one were to ever happen, what would you like to see it as? A continuation of part 2 or something new altogether? P.S. As a Final Fantasy lover, workout enthusiast, and Jersey boy myself, my Summonassi is ready for some Mr. Happy. Now, we'll ask, this question applies to both of you since you're both fans.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from a third game?
God, I don't know. I've never even considered that.
I don't know that I want to even see a third game.
I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'd be so worried. I'd be so scared,
Well, what if Kojima's like, yo, I'm coming back. First game I'm doing is Zone of the Enders 3.
Pie in the sky stuff. Then at that point, it would be cool to just continue part 2, but in the way that they continue part 2. So you didn't play part 2 yet, Brad, but part 2 has a completely different main character than part 1 does.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew it's a different character.
So it'd be cool to just fucking call it Zone of the Enders, the third runner.
Yeah.
There's a new pilot. There's a new runner for Jehuti. Let's get to know that person, and obviously Dingo and Leon, I think, is or Leo Stenbuck can be side characters. But I'd love to see Zone of the Enders, the third runner. One of the coolest subtitles for a sequel ever. Because video games hate to call themselves Final Fantasy. Obviously, Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah,
they video games really, really want to drop the number, and so I think Zone of the Enders, the second runner, is just really one of the best ways to pull it off.
Yeah. But I'm still not sure I even want it to exist.
Yeah. If Kojima came back and Shuya Murata came back and Yoji Shinkawa was doing all the art again, then I'll be like, okay, sure. But
I feel like even under that, because Kojima is much different now than he was when he made that game. Like, I'm not a big Death Stranding fan. I'm not like, I want him to make media, not necessarily video games. Because I think that's really more his calling, is like because I think back to Metal Gear Solid 4 and I call it Metal Gear Solid the movie, the game. And when he wants to tell something visually, it feels like he's more inspired versus a game that, like, Zone of the Enders, a product of its time, is a very in the game. It's not that kind of experience, which is why it's probably not that long either. So I don't know. I don't know if I would want, and I wouldn't want anyone else to do it either, to be clear. But that's the thing. I think it's a nice little piece of gaming history that survives the times.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, did you bring up an interesting point though, because Kojima is a different game designer, right? And he hasn't really I guess the last game he really made that was mechanically complex was Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
And Death Stranding, I love Death Stranding.
Has a lot of complex stuff to
it. I think it has a lot of complex gameplay systems for sure.
Yeah.
I think complex control systems though that could be something different, because Zone of the Enders is such an elegant control system. Really, it's surprising how a game that fast and that action pace and with that many enemies actually is able to keep the camera and everything under control. So I'm wondering how he might solve those problems today with all the technology today. But you're right though, it would be up in the air. It would make me nervous still. It would make me nervous. I'm nervous about OD, whatever the fuck that is,
Yeah. I think that's just gonna be like more of a. I think that'll be the most movie thing he's ever made.
Yeah, is that the one he's doing with
Jordan Peele?
Xbox? Yes. Yeah.
Jordan Peele and Hunter Schafer and every pretty girl that he can think of.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pootie Tang wrote in, "Hey guys. I love that you're talking about Zone of the Enders too. It's probably the most overlooked game of all time, in my opinion. It's also great it's also a game that made me take my Japanese studies seriously. I hated the English dubs so much that I studied Japanese so I could play the Japanese version. Now I'm living in Japan and pretty fluent. Thanks, Zone of the Enders. Side note, the 8-minute Zone of the Enders 2 Japanese trailer is easily top 5 video game trailers of all time."
I remember that trailer. I should rewatch that again.
Is the dub really that bad?
It's terrible.
This guy had to learn Japanese to stand it.
Here's the thing. It's one of those like it's easily a so bad it's good dub.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the line readings have so much character. They're so weird. Some of the dialogue doesn't really fit in together. So it's definitely definitely easily on the room side of I enjoy this, but it is like bad writing. It is badly translated. It is badly acted, but it is fun. It is acted in a fun way. It's kind of like in that weird zone of like Silent Hill 2, where like obviously the voice acting is bad, but it's hard to imagine the game any other way. But I agree with I think it's so cool that Pootie Tang was so upset with the dub that he learned Japanese.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Unfortunately, we can't get the Japanese version. I think the English version. I think the US version only has the English stuff. So I think for PC, you actually have to mod in the Japanese dubbing, which I heard is really, really excellent. So Final Fantasy VII is a game that got me to try to learn Japanese. I did learn Japanese for a little bit because. I don't know. I repeat the story all the time, Mr. Happy. But when I first played Final Fantasy VII, I did not play it in English. I played the Japanese import version because I could not wait for the US release. So I played the entire thing without understanding a fucking thing of what was going on in the story. No idea what was going on. When Aerith died, I was like, "Oh, I lost my healer. What the fuck? She had all my good materia. God damn it."
Yeah.
So
wonder if she'll come back.
Yeah. And of course there was the secrets. There was the rumors about them coming back, being able to resurrect her, and I did all that stuff too. So.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, yeah. That's fun little trivia of Final Fantasy VII is. I don't want to say. I guess I don't want to confidently say it's one of the first, but it's one of the earlier examples of Square putting something in the English version that wasn't in the Japanese version. I think Ruby Weapon and Emerald Weapon boss fights are only available in the English version.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And the English version also had when you press select, it'll have little UI markers to show you what's interactable and what's enter and enter. So I had no idea where the fuck to go for most of Final Fantasy VII because we didn't have any of that shit,
Yeah.
So we're just like hugging every single texture, every single JPEG on the screen. It was crazy.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 1 does that too. Kingdom Hearts 1 has a bunch more extra bosses too. Yeah, no, not even Final Mix. I mean, the original English version, they did the Japanese version.
We had Sephiroth. Yeah, they didn't have Sephiroth.
They also had a boss in Kingdom Hearts 1, Kurt Zisa. That name, they did a contest where people put their names in and they took someone's name. Yeah. And they gave Yeah, I just imagine, how dope is it they pull a guy's name named Kurt Zisa? That's a dope name.
Yeah,
he just has a boss name now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, dude. Holy shit. Can you imagine if they did that kind of stuff today still? Man, it'd be wild. Bring it back. Do it for one game.
And let Lance Bass be Sephiroth again.
Let Lance Bass be Sephiroth again. And stop hiring influencers. Otherwise, you have to, when they end up when they inevitably become a pedophile, you have to patch out their fucking names out of their games. So
just
pick a regular person.
All right, Mr. Happy. Let's talk about Palworld, dude.
Oh man,
I've never played this. Gene, you've played some of it though.
I did. I played a good maybe 50 hours of it. Had a lot of fun.
Good game. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, Palworld is such an interesting thing to have happened this year. Unfortunate that its update dropped the same day as Dawn Trail, basically. So there's no way I could have played the update. Yeah. But for years, it was memed on. From the moment we saw it at an E3 or a Summer Game Fest or whatever it was, it's just like, wait, does Pokemon have guns? And it's lived in that shadow for years and years and years. And you know what? When it came out, you know what it was? Pokemon with guns.
Yeah, people were like, sick.
Yeah, sick.
Perfect.
But what's crazy is you can clearly see how many things Pokemon fans were not pleased with over the years, and how Palworld approached those particular things in terms of shiny hunting or accessibility on platforms and support and communication. And there was a lot of positive. Now, obviously, they dealt with a lot of criticisms over I don't think it was ever confirmed if they used anything that was AI generative, but their CEO and I think some of their developers were they were positive about the idea of using things that were AI generative. And I think they had another game that released that was AI generative, and it plagiarized another game, at least in concept, if not outright. But nobody cared. The people who cared were not the loud voice. They had tens of millions of people playing the game. And it's just one of those gaming phenomena that you don't see coming. And you think maybe you won't be a part of it, but then you try it and you're like, oh, I'm here. I'm here. And I played it on a friend's server, and we all worked together and built stuff together and got on calls and had that really collaborative experience. It was $30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Easy asking price. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for 100+ hours in one playthrough that maybe you go back to it a few years later after it does updates or whatever, and you don't pay any more. You just need to get some server space or something, or you play it on your own. It was just really easy to get in and share that experience with other people. And I think we need that a lot, that in a way that's not actually playing with people, just having a shared experience. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is still the prime example. Everyone who plays through, something different happens. You find out something you didn't know could happen, an option you didn't take the first time through, a boss you didn't encounter, an NPC interaction that you missed or something. It's one of those I call it a schoolhouse or a schoolyard game, where you go to the schoolyard and you talk about it. You're like, oh, I had this thing. I found this thing. And this you don't get that. Most games feel like they're just spoiled, senseless, and everyone knows and expects everything. And you don't get a game where you just get to all have very unique experiences unless they're PvP, and you're just like, oh, this one game, this guy was trolling. And Palworld, as controversial as it was a breath of fresh air when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Just to get this straight, so I haven't played it, but it is a crafting survival game, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you collect these pals. Is that what they're called, pals, in the game? Yeah. Like their Pokemon equivalent? And you can have them do tasks for you, I don't know, harvest grain or some shit, or chop down wood. But they fight with you too, right?
Yeah. And you can mount them and fight on top of them, so you can control them. And there's a little bit of tech with that. There's a few boss battles throughout the world. And then Pokemon, there's shiny equivalents. And they definitely learn. It's crazy because between Pokemon games, you can see there's different dev teams. You look at Legends Arceus, and you see, you can hear a sparkle when there's a shiny nearby. You can visually see them. And then you go and you play the next generation and you have no idea. You can't see them out. You can kind of see them out in the wild, but they don't make a sound effect. They don't draw attention. I'm colorblind. So you have to visually see that they're different. And some of them are like this big because they're like the actual Pokedex size. So you're just like, is that one? Is it shut? I don't care. Let's find out.
Yeah, does your chat troll you about that shit?
No, I have them spot them for me.
Okay, good. They're good about it. They don't troll you. Be like, that's a shiny, and it's not.
Yeah, they're like, stop.
Yeah.
Look, don't move. Look to your left. Okay, and I'm like, I think it was Slowpoke or something. They were like completely the same to me. There were 7 of them on my screen, and they're like, to your right, and I'm like, guys, I'm just gonna clear them all out at this point. Like, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Grab them all, yeah.
That's funny, dude.
That's crazy. Wow, I never thought about color blindness and shiny hunting. Oh man.
Yeah, but Palworld, that's not an issue because they're bigger, they're stronger, they're higher level.
Yeah, they're like screens. They're like screen filling size. Yeah.
Damn. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're massive. They're like Snorlax size.
Yeah.
Gene, have you any desire to go back?
I have only because I enjoy that element of it, of what Happy was describing and what you described about all the different pals doing stuff. I think that's the stuff that makes this so much more interesting than Pokemon, or at least it made it so compelling at the beginning. Because in Pokemon, all you do with Pokemon is you fight with them. Pokemon is ironically the more violent game. Because I was wondering about Palworld. I played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet shortly after I played Palworld, and then one thing I noticed is I'm just always fighting all the time. I'm just in combat all the time. Whereas in Palworld, that's not necessarily part of the loop. The combat will be part of it, but a lot of it is hunting and gathering and building stuff, and just managing your little fort. So I had a whole little ecosystem of pals just doing stuff, and they had their whole beds, and there was a shower, and there was an entertainment area, and built them houses, and I called the whole place the Washington Post, gave it a sign and everything like that. Yeah, it's a great time. I don't really like survival games, but I like building games, so and that definitely scratched an itch, especially in terms of when you're building like a party or like building a crew of pals, So, you really feel invested in Pokemon. You're building your Pokemon party because you have, at least for me, the way I built my Pokemon party is I'm getting all the strengths and I'm making sure it's a well balanced party. With Palworld, I'm making sure that certain pals have certain skill like labor skills. And then I'm like, oh, you know how to draw water from this? Okay, well, let's bring it back to my camp or whatever, So I'm not even thinking about how strong they are or whatever like that. I'm just thinking about how useful they are, which of course feeds into the whole slavery allegory that Palworld really, really leans into,
Wait, there's slaves?
Pokemon. Well, essentially that's a big thing. But it's like essentially that's been the joke about Pokemon for decades. Mm-hmm. And Palworld just kind of says, listen, you're gonna call a spade, all right?
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
Yeah, no, there's even a slave master podium that you can make within your camp, so you can assign one pal to be the house pal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the Samuel L. Jackson in the Candy.
I was just thinking of Django. Yeah.
Yes, exactly like Samuel L. Jackson in the Candy Estate.
Yeah.
You can assign a house pal.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how it leans into that.
God.
Yeah,
I love Palworld. I should replay that game again.
Yeah, I haven't checked out the new update. There's like a new
There's all these new updates that it should be. Maybe I should check it out. So right now Palworld is still the second most played all-time peak concurrence ever on Steam.
Yeah, it's crazy.
After PUBG. I can't believe PUBG was ever that big. That's so crazy.
Dude, PUBG only still around because of its popularity in China now. It's survived solely on that. Final Fantasy 14 is getting a Chinese-only mobile MMO.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, they were supposed to do 11 a long time ago, weren't they?
Oh God, don't even get me started on the Nexon Final Fantasy 11 mobile MMO that never happened. Oh God, Final Fantasy 11 R.
They were gonna make that. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Square Enix had Nexon. They were supposed to make Final Fantasy 11 R.
Nope, not anymore.
That sucks. Well, hey, maybe that'll be Square's future. You know, just Final Fantasy 14 in China, and then that'll save the company. You know,
that'll save the company. Honestly, they're gonna make bank off of Final Fantasy 14 mobile. Oh yeah,
they sure will. Wait, in Palworld, don't you have like guns and shoot these pals?
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds more violent than Pokemon, Gene.
No.
Yeah, but once you're done with the hunting and the shooting, though, you know, once that gameplay loop is over, then you enter a new gameplay loop of harvesting and nurturing and taking care of them and everything like that. So initially, yes, in the first few hours, you're gonna have to take your stick and go out there and literally hit these fucking Pokemon in their head until they get unconscious and they become Havoc Engine ragdolls. Which is so fucking funny.
It's pretty funny.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then you get them, and then you bring them back, and they're fine. You know,
but to go back to the survival bits, one of the big things that Palworld understood is that I think they definitely understood from the get-go that they weren't appealing to survival people, but they were making a survival game. So it comes with basically the ability to turn off almost all the survival settings. Like you still have to play the loop, but it could be like, you know, build time is really quick, and like, you know, any sort of upgrade time is really quick, and egg hatching is really quick. They get rid of, you can have time gates for a balanced experience. You can get rid of all the time gates on everything, so you can just focus on like building and growing and nurturing. And the fact that they understood that's pretty important, because I definitely prefer to play with those settings on the less creative side. Yeah. So the less survival side.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, Palworld's still kicking, still big.
Yeah, still about like 35,000 concurrents all for 24-hour peak. So not bad still, you know.
Yeah, not bad.
Same with Helldiver numbers. So Helldivers and
that's a whole other topic, though.
That's a whole other topic. But, you know, it's interesting that Palworld and Helldivers 2 are the two breakout hits of the year. And they're both, you know, having concurrent discourse. And it's like, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I don't know what's going on with the Helldivers balance discourse, though. That's definitely a whole other thing. So
I don't really play it enough to even comment on that, so couldn't tell you. Yeah. All right, let's end the show as we always do. Some questions from the audience. If you want to send a question to the show, head on over to patreon.com/laststandmedia. All right, here we go. This is from Dabadoose. Hey, Warriors of Light. Unrelated to games listed, but since I know Mr. Happy has experience with it, I was curious if either Brad or Gene ever played Final Fantasy 11. It seems like an interesting outlier in the industry, being 22 years old now and still managing to run with a monthly fee. It was my first MMO and still feels like home every time I come back to it. Keep it up, Square Enix, and keep those servers running. Mr. Happy does not want to hear about Final Fantasy 11, it looks like.
So I played Final Fantasy 11 since its early days. 2004, I believe, that's when I started playing. I have played it. I've come back to it time and time again. I always have discourse with other 11 players because I don't look back on it as the greatest thing of all time. And there's a lot of that with 11 people. Like, I can't stand 14. It's so accessible and modern. And that's just genuinely the complaint. They're like, oh man, I'm missing. The zones were so large and immersive, and I'm like, bro, you just bought sneak oils and walked past everything. How are you immersed? You just were trying to avoid aggro the whole time. Like, it was immersive. It was immersive a single time, I agree, but after that, it was designed to make you spend money on that, which is smart from an economic standpoint to make items valuable in the game. Plus on that, but I'm not going to call it for more than it was.
Yeah. 11 I played when it came to PS2. I bought the whole PS2 kit for it. So I played through that. I played to Chains of Promethea, and WoW came out, and I was like, okay, bye. Final Fantasy 11. I'm playing WoW now. But then throughout the years, I'd come back to 11. I do play 11 like once a year for like a month maybe, and I'm just going through the story content. I'm pretty sure you've done all the expansions, haven't you?
Yeah, they actually just finished a recent story, Voracious Resurgence. They started releasing for the 20th anniversary, which was in 2022, and they just finished it last October. And they did a pretty good job at that. I was pleased with that.
Wait, they're still making new content for Final Fantasy 11?
It's really in maintenance mode now after they finished Voracious Resurgence. But they've tried to shut that game down like 3 times. Like Final Fantasy 14 1.0 was made so they could stop making Final Fantasy 11. That's why the races all look similar. They just wanted 11 players to go over to 14. That didn't work. So they made the Seekers of Adolin expansion pack. And then in 2016, they're like, okay, we're going to do Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. That is our culmination of all the expansions. Like you have to progress all the expansions and then it comes together into one big finale. And it's very emotional. It's very, very hard. Even if you haven't played for like back in those years, like you kind of get what they're going for throughout it. And then they're like, after that, we have like a year of stuff planned and then we have no idea. And then they're like, well, for the 20th anniversary, we're going to make this new thing called Voracious. And right now they're like, okay, I think we're done for now. We're done now this time. Okay. So everyone just waits for the next thing. Nope.
I think I was on the expansion happy. You might know where you like travel back in time in Sandoria is what I was doing with like when they were kids, those elf guys. That's where I was at when I last played, I recall. But I think 11's cool and I do have nostalgia for it. It's very rough though. It's very rough in a lot of ways. I think it's cool and I still enjoy parts about it, but dude, even just going through a zone, not even the sneaking oil, like the way these zones are laid out sometimes are so fucking bad. And they put like stuff to just make things inconvenient for you. They're just like, well, this way is just blocked now, even though on the map it says you can go through here. Or here's a ledge. It's just like, why are you fucking doing this? Like, you make me like go through a maze or some shit when it should be just a normal thing. It's fucking insane. And of course, the game itself, which is like a MMO thing from back in the day, it's just very obtuse, I think, in some ways to figure out some shit, which is some people like, some people don't.
Yeah.
But it's very slow. Combat is like, dude, you play that game now, and if you've never played 11 before and you only played modern shit, you play 11 now, you're like, what the fuck is this game? What is this? How could people even like this?
You know, it's funny. Modern 11 is so fast for the engine.
Yeah.
That you cannot play it as intended without add-ons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there's no 60 frames in it. You like have to get a mod for
you
that
can
shit.
get 60 frames. You can get 60 frames.
Can you?
You have to.
In the game?
No. For modding, yeah, you have to mod it to 60 frames.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I'm sorry, 1080p is in the game. When I played it as a kid, it was like 480p on a PlayStation 2. Yeah, no, but it's 1080p, but just not 60. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do a lot of stuff now. I still think it's cool in some ways, but it's just, you got to be a certain type of person to enjoy that game.
Yeah.
14 is way easier to just enjoy. Way easier.
Mm-hmm.
Gene, what about you? Have you ever played 11?
No, 11 is the only Final Fantasy probably game, even spin-off. Well, no, I'm sure there's spin-offs I haven't touched, but Final Fantasy 11 is definitely the only mainline game that I've never ever even touched once. I have a good friend, Mike Brecken, who was the horror geek in Beat the Geeks in that old TV show. He lost his life to Final Fantasy 11.
Oh man.
He was addicted to it. He's probably one of those guys who I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years, but he's probably one of those guys that probably prefers 11 over 14. So I'm curious about. My curiosity is piqued. I can't believe. I knew that it was still going on, but I can't believe that there's still content that being made in recent years. Now I'm looking at whether I can just run it on a Steam Deck, which it should be fine. But
yeah,
there's probably a lot of key configs that I had to figure out. But that could be that. It is interesting that I've never touched it before, so I feel like I should touch it a little bit.
So not as hard for the Steam Deck as you may think. So Final Fantasy 11 was actually originally released on the PlayStation 2 in Japan, not PC. So it's made for controller formats by default. Yeah. And then it was released on PC 6 months later in Japan. And we got them at the same time here in the States. So it runs fine on Steam Deck. You just don't have, I guess you can access like the third party stuff that people use if you really wanted it, but that's like a whole other thing. Yeah. If you need a guide, I can guide you through that.
Maybe, but also I should just be playing Final Fantasy 14 instead. So
yeah. You've beaten Realm Reborn, I think you said.
Exactly. So so happy to catch up on my FF14 experience. I basically played through all of Realm Reborn. I'm at the last boss. I forgot who the last boss is, but I just basically stopped there because I was addicted to it for a good month and a half. I was playing it so much that I would not show up to work. I would leave work to play it. A lot of my work was becoming late. A girlfriend dumped me during the time. And when I recognized all of this, I was like, so I used to smoke meth too, right? And then so when I had to be real honest with myself and say, Final Fantasy 14 has done more material damage on my life than meth has ever had. So I needed to stop Final Fantasy 14.
You know what? I don't want you to play Final Fantasy 11 anymore.
Yeah, you're gonna be addicted.
Yeah. So I still want to go back to 14 because I had a really, really great time, even with the worst part of the game, which is A Realm Reborn. I really, really loved it. You know, all of the maps and the worlds and gameplay systems and dungeons and the characters were interesting. The music was fantastic. I just really want to go back to the world again, you know, because I feel like Eorza or whatever like that is just like one of the greatest fantasy maps ever designed. It's just so big. You really do feel immersed. It really does feel like a portal to another planet, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the appeal of Final Fantasy 14 in particular.
Yeah. All right. This is from the Dave Meister. Hey, Skibbity Summoners. All right. Let's cut to the chase. What do you want to see or what do you want to see for the next Fallout from Bethesda? Discuss now. I'll hang up and listen. Next Fallout game. What do you guys want?
Fallout 5. California probably.
Have they done California? I'm not a Fallout expert. I have no idea.
No,
California was the first two games, or West Coast, and then ever since they moved to Bethesda, they started moving
the East Coast.
So that's why we got DC
and Vegas
and Boston, right?
Yeah, Vegas.
Yeah, well, and then New Vegas was Obsidian, so that
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so New Vegas was the closest thing to the OG Fallout thing. So, you know, I feel like California going back to the West Coast is probably the best case scenario. Oh, Fallout 76 was West Virginia. So again, probably the closest thing to the Midwest as they've ever gotten. There's always Fallout New York, you know.
Yeah. I can see them doing like Northern California. Or like Oregon or Seattle, something like that. I could easily see. I always wanted to see Fallout in a different country, like what's going on in other places in the world, but I don't know if they'll ever do that. I was always curious about like what's going on in Europe and stuff. Yeah,
that's why they have the new mod Fallout London out right now. That is made by former Fallout devs. Yeah, so it is about as official as you can get, but. I think the original creators said that they never wanted they never wanted it to take place outside of America. Yeah, that the mystery of the rest of the world should continue to persist, which is fair. I think that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, there's still a lot of America that you still need to explore, anyways.
Totally.
So, you know,
I think that's what I was gonna say. Like, if I go anywhere that's like, I guess, still in that part of the world, Mexico that was exactly what I was gonna say.
Okay, that could be cool. Yeah.
All right, I don't know what I want though. Yeah, I didn't. I don't even know. Like I got burnt on 4. I feel like I got burnt on 4. There's only like one part of 4 I really remember fondly, and then I didn't care for 76 at all. I've heard 76 has gotten a lot better, but
it was bad when it came out. Bad.
It was bad. When it came out.
Yeah,
I'm just not looking for that experience, I suppose, the like cooperative. Like I really want the standalone. Like I remember walking out of the vault in 3 and finding a town full of fire ants and the shopping mall, and like everything was more instantly captivating in 3 in New Vegas than it was in 4 and 76. So I'm just like.
Right, the locations in 3 were immediately more interesting. They're like, here's a town full of fire ants, or here's Megaton, right?
Yeah.
And in the Fallout 4, it takes you a while to get to the baseball stadium, which is probably one of the more interesting areas.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then there's nothing much going on there. It's just a town in a baseball stadium. You know, you can't blow it up. There's no weirdos there, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of very instant, like, decision making about the path you're going to take for the rest of the game very early on in 3. And 4, not really. Like you're kind of focused on building out your town early on. They make that focus, and I don't think that works out when you start exploring around, because you're constantly thinking about having to go back and deal with that. Like the only place in 4 I liked was I can't remember the exact premise, but it's like a town where everyone's being really nice to you, and you find out they're doing some like really like crazy thing underneath, and everyone's like part of a massive conspiracy.
Mhm.
I don't remember
I never
exactly
finished
where
4.
that is. Yeah.
I also got burnt out on 4.
4 is easy to get burnt out on because it's very repetitive. And it's
Well,
it's
I
just
played it
dungeon
after The
crawling.
Witcher 3, and I was like, well, I think I'm good for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's right. It came out the same year as Witcher 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're like, no, I think
Yeah.
I'll keep
got
playing Witcher.
outshadowed. Jeez.
Yeah. Fallout 4, Fallout. What else? I don't know.
That's what happened with Starfield too. It came out the same year as Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
They have
I was
rough
never
years.
excited for Starfield though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my style. I'm way more into Elder Scrolls, I guess, or more, I'd be more excited about it. It's cool they're trying something different, but I wasn't like hyped about it at all.
Yeah, I just knew No Man's Sky had done so much work over the years that it was like, man, this game's already here. It's just all the free No Man's Sky updates that have released over the past like 4 to 5 years at that point.
Yeah,
It's
No Man's
rough
Sky.
because, I played Star Wars Outlaws too, and Star Wars Outlaws allows you to go into your ship and go right into atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
And it's like,
couldn't do that in Starfield.
I love Starfield, but I really, really wish that they made that key decision early on to have 1,000 planets versus 100 at least. Really, really fucked them over. And it's
yeah,
like, God, imagine a game with 20 amazing planets.
Yeah. It's more exciting to go through planets and what's that game? Is it not Spawn?
Starlink,
Spore.
Yeah, it's more exciting to go through planets in Spore than it is in Starfield.
I mean, yeah, it was actually more exciting. Again, I like Starfield, but it actually was more mysterious and more interesting to land on a new planet in No Man's Sky.
Yeah, sure.
It's really a shame that they couldn't keep that mystery up. But Fallout and Elder Scrolls, they can because it's not procedurally generated. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just need to get their shit together. Sort it out. Bethesda.
Sort it out. That's the sort it out.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. All right, this is from Sean Mason. Hello, Summoners. I turned 28 last week, and it got me reminiscing about some of the amazing gaming-related gifts I received over the years. One of my all-time favorites was back on my 6th birthday in 2002 when I got a GameCube along with Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now I'm curious, what's the best gaming-related birthday gift you've ever received? Best regards, Sean M. Birthday-related.
So
I feel like... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have an answer, but I'm gonna get it out of the way because it's not a good gift, but it's the best story. I was 5 years old. My birthday is 2 days after Christmas, so they just combine them. And I open an N64, brand new, super excited.
Nice.
So then my parents say, you'll probably want to open that one next. Obviously, they're pointing to a game under the tree, and 5-year-old me goes and grabs it. Super Mario 64.
Yes. Huge.
The perfect combination. I thank them. I get really excited, and they say, by the way, that has to go back to Blockbuster in 2 days.
Fuck, what the hell?
They couldn't find it to buy it, so they rented it.
Oh,
and 5-year-old me was hard. They're like, it's okay, we'll just rent it again. We'll just rent it. We'll just re-rent it. You don't have to give it back. We'll just rent it again.
Oh, bless your parents. They're so sweet. Holy shit.
They knew what I wanted. They got it. They just got it by any means necessary.
That's really sweet of them. God bless your parents. They're awesome.
God bless. Yeah, that is cool.
That is so cool. That's so cool of them.
Gene, what about you? Any birthday memories you could think of with gaming?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I definitely remember getting the Super Nintendo on Christmas, but on my birthday, it's a little tough.
I usually got stuff around Christmas because my birthday is in May, so I was kind of far away from like console or like big console stuff.
Exactly. My birthday's this month, August. It was 2 weeks ago, so it's like
happy belated.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of games come out in summer. I don't know. So
no, they used to not. Now they do.
Well, now they do. Yeah.
Now there's shit fucking constantly. Can't even take a break.
Can get Platinum Wukong for my birthday this year.
Yeah. I think I want to say I got like Sonic 3 maybe at my birthday or around then, which was cool. But I can't really recall anything else. Everything was usually around Christmas.
Yeah.
Or I would do the deal with the parents, early birthday present or something like that. Can I get this now early?
Yeah.
I would say just combine it and ask for something more expensive.
That's a good idea for you.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
That's why you got. Well, that's why they try to get you the console. Yeah.
Oh, they got me that. Yeah. It was the game that I had to go back, so I had no other game.
Oh, so they got you the console, but the game they had to return. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really sweet, though. Still, that's cool.
Yeah, I never forget that story.
Yeah, you could just return. We ran Mario 64 over and over again.
Yeah.
Oh man,
5-year-old me didn't. I didn't understand that though. Like, even though they were explaining it to me, I was just like,
that's rough. They really tried their best. I don't think I've never gotten a gaming related present as an adult. Unfortunately.
Oh, as an adult? No, I haven't gotten jack shit.
Yeah, jack shit. I haven't had really a lot of gaming friends in my adulthood. It's only been recently in the past few years since I've been working in the games media space. Other than that, I've never had many gamer friends.
Oh, you know what? I take that back. You know what? Locke Gene gifted me recently Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because I told him I never played it, and he loves that game, and 2 is coming up. So he's like, when it was my birthday, he just bought it for me. I was like, oh shit, thanks, man.
Log, I want to try that game out.
Yeah. Gene's birthday's coming up. Yeah. He'd probably be happy to buy it for you.
It's coming up in 50 weeks now, but
Yeah. All right. Final question. Hello. Sorry, I'm going to have to forget Gene and Brad for the real star of the show, Happy himself. This is a jest, just to be clear. Anyway, I just have one Final Fantasy question for you. I saved this 14 question for the end. As someone that has been playing all the non-savage / extreme raids and dungeons as I go, talk to me about the Alliance raid for Stormblood. It was quite the difficulty jump for me. And while I enjoyed the content, I want to hear your thoughts on the difficulty. I've been hearing this content is the outlier in the regard for non-savage content. And I'm curious how it was received at the time, and if you think they would ever go back to a similar level of challenge outside of Savage. This is an interesting comment, Happy, because you do know everyone was complaining about the difficulty of Dawn Trail.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, Dawn Trail is kind of a discussion now because people have been. I'd say that the difficulty is less of a topic as the fun is. I think that's kind of the realization that not difficult is not the same as not fun. Has really been the chief discussion at this point. But some people, I mean, that depends on who you ask. But it's been a pretty fun expansion, more so than a difficult one. But going back to Stormblood, so for anyone who's listening who may be knowledgeable about Final Fantasy as a franchise, but not 14, Stormblood, the Alliance raids are the 24-player raids, and they're generally designed to be easier content than something like a hardcore raid in World of Warcraft, like, you're watching Race for World First or Mythic or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that one was the return to Ivalice. They brought on Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XII's director, writer, to collaborate on incorporating those elements into the world. So it was a really big deal for hardcore Final Fantasy fans. But the encounters themselves were pretty tough. Definitely a step above what the other Alliance raids were. That being said, it wasn't that much of a step up. There was actually a huge controversy in Heavensward where the first raid, they apologized for being too easy. So we'll never do that again. They lied. The second one, they had people like aggravatingly writing forum posts about it being too hard. That was the Weeping City of Mach. Now we blow through that, no problem. And the one after that had kind of similar-ish vibes. So this kind of continued that trend then, but as time has gone on, the Ivalice raids have continued to still kind of give people trouble, even though they've nerfed some of them. And all the other ones just disintegrate under the weight of years and years of player experience, new gear, new skills, all that stuff. So back in the day, it wasn't a discourse nearly as much because of the years of time people had with Heavensward, and Heavensward is just one of the most that Heavensward could have single-handedly re-killed Final Fantasy 14 on release. I'm not even kidding. It could have buried the game again. It was that brutal of an expansion. And I think after that, anything in Stormblood was never going to really hold pace. I think you'd get a lot more complaints nowadays from people concerned it's too difficult because the player base is more than double than what it was in Stormblood. But no, there wasn't much discourse. They fixed a few things that made getting it in roulettes, specifically the third one, Orbon Monastery. And it's if anything, we kind of need more of that because I think a lot of people aren't used to seeing that kind of stuff. and the game ill prepares you to actually take any sort of difficulty jump like that. So that's why he's even experiencing it, because the game just doesn't prepare you for it. So a consistency level of staying at around that level would be better for the player base as a whole, because you can always help people get better. You can go in and be the better player and res people. I used to do it all the time. So it's an interesting one, though, because it's, again, Final Fantasy Tactics is, you know, as far as people are concerned, Tactics is a numbered Final Fantasy game, even though it's not.
Right.
So it's a pretty important one to get right.
Yeah, it's that beloved, definitely. All right, boys, that's it. We're done. We are done with this episode. Gene, thank you for joining me. Mr. Happy, thank you for joining us, especially after all those technical problems we had. We got it fixed.
God.
But we got there.
Yeah, thank you for not giving up, because I would have been the worst day. That cat you just saw,
yeah,
he was supposed to have a vet appointment today, and they never called me to remind me what his carry-in time was, and they didn't call me to tell me that I needed him to fast him for 24 hours before, so they didn't want to actually do his dental cleaning because he has to be intubated. So I had to cancel that and reschedule that for next week, and then this wasn't working. I'm like, oh,
well, we got it now. Yes. Happy, if people want to see what you do, where can they find you?
You can find me, Mr. Happy 1227, pretty much everywhere. Live stream on both YouTube and Twitch, and I'm platformed pretty much on everything, even Threads at this point. There are threads that I post to at this point, just in case Twitter ever finally crumbles under the weight of itself. Yeah, might as well be present somewhere else, right? But I stream every day, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific, and sometimes more than that, and largely 14. But Visions of Mana comes out in 10 days. Very much looking forward to that after playing the demo. Wukong, I'm a little shaky. I'm playing Wukong after hearing the impressions earlier. Maybe in my own time, we'll see, because I might want to judge it not in front of everyone and come with the thoughts after. And I also recently attended an Atlas event to play Metaphor early in New York City. And while I can't give any details, please look forward to hearing thoughts about that sometime in the near future.
Yeah, cool. I got invited to that event. Roomby and so many other creators were there, and I feel like I missed out. I should have gone.
Damn.
Yeah.
That game's gonna be sick. I'm hyped for that game. Very excited. Cool. Gene, any final words you want to say before we get out of here?
Nope. Just thanks for listening, guys. And Mr. Happy, it's so great to meet you. It was we really got along famously, very easily. So very cool.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, such a great pleasure to meet you. Make your acquaintance, man.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you the next one. Take care. Bye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.